The young man lying here is named Hoa Tanvan. Although he has cultivated to the point of immortality, he exhausted himself in his previous life by selling himself to capitalism and died leaving many things undone in this life. He decided to cultivate only from 9 in the morning until 5 in the evening, leading a very peaceful life until the old sect master assigned him to teach a younger sister named Nha Kiem Tam, who is merely a bottom-ranked disciple of the Thanvan sect. Is it reasonable to teach a disciple considered the future of the Thanvan sword sect? Ultimately, can Hoa Thanvan continue to hide his skills and live a normal life? Alright, let's get straight to the main content. In a place called Thung Nguyen Joy Dong Hoang, a battle occurred in Thanvan Châu with the atmosphere stagnant and dark clouds looming, accompanied by a series of dangerous purple lightning strikes. Striking directly down onto a tall rocky mountain, a shout echoed. Before the blood formation of the Thanvan sword sect, this is all you can do. A source of demonic energy struck a person so powerfully that it sent dust swirling around. This energy spread everywhere, pushing back the other white-clad individuals as that voice rang out again. The era has changed. From now on, the Eastern Wild will be the domain of the Mavan sect. One arm lay on the ground, surrounded by falling drops of blood, muttering, "The Mavan sect." The young man, despite being severely injured, still bravely shouted, "Don't be arrogant. I have already informed Hua Zuhuin. When he arrives, none of you will escape. Is there anyone from the Thanvan sword sect with the surname Hoa?" That was the question from a person behind him, a large figure with slicked back hair and an imposing demeanor, surrounded by dangerous dark energy. In front of him stood 5 dangerous individuals, and the other person spoke again. "I remember there is no old man with a terrifying face and sharp fangs sneering with contempt, who isn't even among the top 10 disciples yet, wants to challenge our Mavan sect." He flew high, addressing the disciples of the Thanvan sword sect below. "Tell your Hua Suhuin to come and clean up your corpses." A powerful punch from that figure descended, and suddenly a young man with long hair shot up, blocking that punch with his hand. Creating a massive windstorm that affected everything around, the old demon of the Ma sect was astonished and shouted, "What is this?" Below, the disciples of the Thanvan sword sect embraced each other, joyfully shedding tears. "Did we get saved?" the young man earlier asked excitedly, clasping his hands and loudly saying, "Hua Su Huin." The young man was Hua Thanvan, who looked at them and spoke slowly. "Fortunately, I arrived in time." A sound made him turn his head. The old man, irritated, spoke urgently, controlling the figure to concentrate a source of demonic energy to attack him, and shouted, "Are you ready to give your life?" To block that attack, Thanvan lightly swung his sword just one strike. It sliced through the large figure and sent the 5 members of the Mavan sect flying from behind. When the battle ended, the dark clouds dispersed, revealing a clear blue sky. He gently landed on the ground and asked, "What happened? Is it over?" The old man from earlier had also fallen beside him, currently holding a pitch-black pill. "Is everyone all right?" At this moment, Thanvan spoke up, asking everyone. The disciple stepped forward to receive the pill he offered. The voices of the other disciples echoed, "Thank you, Hua Su Huin, for your assistance." Thanvan reproached, "Ngui Nien, didn't I tell you not to intervene?" "If I hadn't arrived quickly this time, it would have been dangerous," Ngui Nien replied, flustered. "Hua Su Huin, you are right. It was just that those demonic cultivators were truly too ruthless. 100,000 cultivators from Huyete Thanghu only wanted to refine blood pearls. Regardless of those who go against the righteous path of the sect, the first time they are provoked, Thanvan advised the young man not to be influenced by the outdated thoughts of the sect. Living simply and within one's means is truly the path of cultivation for us." Hearing this, the young man awkwardly said, "Hua Su Huin, you are speaking in riddles again." At this moment, the black pill on the ground suddenly emitted dark energy. Thanvan sensed something and said, as a person with a strange figure and dark skin appeared with platinum hair. He was the Tavan Lauto, who raised his voice. "Dare to injure the disciples of our Mavan sect." He used the demonic technique Ma Antu, immediately descending with a dangerous black hand, angrily shouting, "You seek death." Seeing this scene, Ngui Nien recognized him and shouted, "This is the elder of the Mavan sect, Tavan Lao To." A 7th-level cultivator of the Fukan Thanvan said nothing, silently drawing his sword. A sea blue light appeared across the sky as Thanvan coldly spoke, "Are you still not done?" The opponent's hand turned to face the light blue aura of Thanvan, causing it to swirl everywhere. Tavan Lauto glared, thinking, "Can you withstand a 7th-level attack of mine?" He covered his smile with his hand and said, "Kid, very good. Killing you would be a bit of a pity." The monk of the 7 layers of the underworld. Thanvan said nothing but silently drew his sword, a beam of azure light illuminating the entire sky. Thanvan spoke in a cold tone, "Are you still not going to stop?" The opponent's hand turned to face the pale blue aura of Thanvan, causing it to swirl everywhere. The old master of the dark clouds glared, thinking to himself, "Can he really withstand one strike from my 7 layers of the underworld?" He covered the smile on his lips with his hand and said, "You little brat, it's a pity to kill you." The old man stretched out his 2 hands, enticing Thanvan, saying, "The Mavan sect has always respected the strong. Why not join my faction? I will make you my top disciple, able to summon storms and have anything you desire, beautiful treasures and women." At this moment, he still stood silently within his protective circle, and after a while he remarked, "Is the treatment really that good?" Tanvan casually continued, "But I heard that your Marvan sect disciples have to stay up late and get up early eating the wind and sleeping in the dew and are hunted by the righteous path. Training is just to sharpen each other and rely on your own efforts." Hearing Tanvan's words, the old man hesitated and replied, "Oh, we don't have as many strict rules as the righteous sects. The environment is quite relaxed. Those who work hard will reap the rewards." His face darkened and he lowered his voice, saying, working hard and reaping rewards. The work at Thanvan Sword sect is very stable and is a prestigious major sect. I live very well here." At this point, Thanvan drew his sword completely. He thought to himself, "Now you want to deceive me," he shouted in anger. "Are you trying to fight?" He then began to unleash powerful lightning-fast sword strikes toward the old man of the Marvan sect, who was overwhelmed by the cuts that struck around his body. The old man exclaimed in shock, "What?" Another strike pierced straight through the old man's body. It only left behind dangerous purple bruises. A loud explosion occurred, causing him to vanish. He sheathed his sword and with a proud expression said, "Very good. Seeing all the reasons to rejoice, I told you calling for Hua Shixiong was the right choice, didn't I?" His face was filled with admiration as he looked at Tanvan, while the other disciples behind him were stunned, trembling, and hugging each other, saying, "I can't be dreaming, can I? Is the introductory sword technique of our sect really that powerful? Hua Shixiong is terrifyingly strong." The old man of the Marvan sect was now lying on the ground, severely injured and losing a lot of blood. He mumbled, "Why?" Tanvan stood high above, looking down coldly, saying, "I've been rolling around here for many years and have long seen through your destructive techniques." He irritably continued, "Daring to act pretentiously in front of me is truly embarrassing." Hearing this, the old man of the Marvan sect wondered, "Isn't that what I wanted to ask? How are you so strong?" As soon as he finished speaking, his body was sucked back into the black pill. Tanvan reached out to take the pill into his palm, and suddenly a loud explosion occurred, forcing him to quickly dodge. At the same time, a source of black energy appeared and dashed away. Seeing this, he silently wondered, "The true spirit appears." A cluster of purple light formed a human face, radiating from that demonic power, smiling strangely. Tanvan quickly grabbed his sword and said in a deep voice, "Where are you trying to escape to?" Suddenly, a loud noise erupted from somewhere, causing him to pause slightly. The continuous ringing of bells left Tanvan frozen in midair. He took a watch out of his robe and looked at it with a hesitant expression. After a few seconds of contemplation, he turned and flew in another direction, saying, "Forget it anyway. The important mission of rescuing the righteous path has been completed." "What is Hua Shijiang doing, letting the elder of the demonic sect go like that?" One disciple spoke in confusion, while another disciple voiced his doubts. Clearly, just one more strike would have been enough. Why not continue chasing, looking at their attitude? "It seems you don't know." He glanced at them and continued. "Hua Shixiong follows the work schedule of 9 to 5, meaning work starts at 9 and ends at 5. He pointed toward the sun, saying loudly, "The sun has already set." According to Hua Shixiong, it is now... Hearing the explanation, the two people from earlier were left speechless, but everyone in their heads knew it was quitting time. Tanvan, still flying high above, calmly said, "Indeed." His face showed frustration as he sighed. "The most annoying thing is being close to quitting time and still being given a task. I almost have to work overtime again." This is Donghua Tanvan, the Tanvan sword sect, a desolate valley on top of a mountain surrounded by treacherous stairs. Below are people flying on swords currently in the training yard. There was a line of serious people swinging swords. Two people were also landing on their swords, and the sounds of their shouts echoed tiredly. Some young men were panting heavily from exhaustion with encouraging phrases written on the walls. Someone spoke up, "Look at that guy, he's being lazy again." The voice was filled with annoyance as they looked back. There was someone lounging comfortably resting. The other person enviously spoke up, "How annoying, he thinks he's a true disciple. He must have a bear-shaped eye mask covering that young man's eyes." The person was sitting at the base of a tree, sleeping soundly with long hair flowing loosely around him. His arms were crossed behind his head, mouth slightly open, and his tall, lean figure stretched lazily like a cat, pursing his lips and then letting out a sigh. Pulling the eye mask up, his handsome face appeared. It was Hua Tanvan, who had returned to the sect at midnight last night. Pulling the blindfold up, the face of Antoine appeared resembling the flower of Tanvan. By the time he returned to the sect last night, it was already midnight. The lack of sleep clearly made his face full of annoyance, and his mood gradually became sluggish as a result. Initially, he didn't want to be a disciple in this matter, yet he kept assigning me these annoying tasks. His beautiful face furrowed and a vague look appeared in his eyes. It had almost been 5 years. Tanvan remembered the past when he was lying helplessly on the desk, surrounded by scattered pills, due to the continuous overtime at 9 to 6. The face of the department head was terrifying. Pointing at him and the pills lazily lying in front of me, he said, "Get up and work. If you can't finish, don't expect me to do it." In Tanvan's eyes, a woman's voice clearly spoke. "It's not good. The boss... It seems he's not well. Quickly call for help. Help him file the documents." Another voice chimed in as he continued to think he would suddenly die. Tanvan recalled that he was lying on the ground at that time. A few butterflies fluttered by, suddenly entering this magical world, and he, not understanding anything, mumbled, I time traveled." He stood still, looking down at the scene below. Here, my identity was that of a true disciple in the Thanvan sword sect. At that moment, the wind blew wildly, leaving only the rustling leaves falling to the ground. The elders' discussions echoed in his ears. Hua Tanvan, as a true disciple, should strive harder. What do you mean by 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.? You really speak nonsense. At your age, how can you sleep? You should cultivate to the point of forgetting to eat and sleep. The elder pointed at him and ordered, You are indeed the laziest person I've ever met. At that moment, Tanvan only lowered his head and said nothing. Inside, he had a strong determination. To avoid repeating past mistakes, he vowed never to work overtime in this world again. Vowing never to work overtime, Tanvan continued his train of thought while looking at the disciples practicing swordsmanship passionately. They were also competing fiercely here. Just then, a voice called out, making him turn around. Hoa Suhuin, the sect master, is looking for you about yesterday's mission. He wants to ask you some details. Tangvan glanced at him, lowered his head, and then asked slowly, You didn't disclose my matters, did you? The other person smiled cheerfully. No, I told them already. Regarding Hoa Suhuin's strength, everyone will keep it a secret. Tanvan reached out and grabbed Nguyen's shoulder, saying, Well done, I'm relieved. I'll go ahead. His face was charming as he said, Next time, if there's a chance, I'll teach you a few moves. Tanvan whispered, feeling a shiver of danger. Thank you, Hoa Suhuin. After saying that, Tanvan soared high without looking back, only to leave Nguyen shouting loudly, Goodbye, Hoa Suhuin. In the main hall, Tanvan was now walking slowly toward the door. In the celestial realm, there were a total of 6 levels of cultivation, divided from low to high. The first was the primary level, along with the disciple from earlier. Among them, perhaps there were people like Tanvan who sealed their own strength. The final 2 types were completely different in aura, one bright, one dark. They seemed to contrast, but their strengths were clearly not too different. Each level of cultivation was further divided into 9 tiers. At this moment, he had stepped into the main hall, looking at the imposing figure on the throne, who was a higher level man. The expression was dark and serious. The sect master of the Thanvan sword sect, On Kiem, was an extraordinary powerhouse known as the Law of the Ascending Immortal Realm. His eyes were sharp and cold, yet deep inside shone a glimmer of rationality. His jaw was set and his face exuded an extraordinary aura. Tanvan raised his hand and smiled, saying, Good morning, sect master. Tio Hua, be serious. This was the grand hall. The sect master's gaze was indifferent as he looked at him. Tanvan took out from his robe a tea he had planted a few days ago, saying, This is the Van Tam tea. Upon seeing the tea in his hand, the sect master's face showed slight surprise. Then he rushed toward Tanvan, saying, Quick, let me taste it. The shout made Tanvan's ears slightly ring. The last time he had tasted Van Tam tea was a long time ago. Who would have thought that the renowned Tanvan sword god was a tea enthusiast? He smiled mysteriously while the other person was eagerly holding the tea box. Thanks to his modern knowledge, he had cultivated a superior tea, thus maintaining a very good relationship with the leader. This was just a secret, so his face was cunningly smirking. The sect master furrowed his brow and coughed a few times for formality, then asked, Did you receive anything from yesterday's mission? Hearing the disciples return and say that you saved them. On Kiem's face became serious, and his gaze slightly swept over Tanvan. Tanvan's face showed boredom as he replied, It was just a coincidence. He reached out and produced the black pill from yesterday, saying, I found this on the body of a disciple from the Demon Dao sect. Upon seeing the black pill, On Kiem frowned slightly, thinking of the blood pill. He asked Tanvan, both starting to become serious. Hua, do you know what this means? Tanvan also presented the pill to On Kiem. The pill was pitch black, and the master's face seemed to recall something, his eyes flashing with a glimmer of insight. They want Hua Tanvan to stop receiving it, he shouted in fear. I don't know. I don't want to hear. I don't care. Then quickly turned away and said, If the sect master has nothing to discuss, then I will leave first. So fast that it made Onjian unable to stop, and he quietly felt a dark line in his heart, thinking, I'm sorry, sect master, I just want to live a peaceful life. Please hand over these troublesome matters to someone else. The voice of Onjian rang out with great authority, causing Tanvan to immediately stop in his tracks. The tone of his voice gradually rose, Little Hua. Isn't the sect master going to talk to you about your contributions to the spirit tea? But as a true disciple, you cannot be so lazy. Then he shouted loudly, I asked you last week. It was clearly your turn to explain the sword techniques to the disciples, but why didn't you go? Onjian pointed angrily at Tanvan. Hearing this, he slightly turned his head and said, When it was my turn, it was already past the hour of the rooster 9 o'clock for work and 5 o'clock for rest. This is my rule. Please understand, sect master. The words he spoke made Onjian's face full of anger as he shouted loudly, Because you were absent from the sword technique gathering. 4 whole masters have come looking for me. His words echoed, causing Tanvan to stop wanting to dismiss a true disciple like you. He turned around and said, Did they really say that? Feeling that the situation was not good, Onjian thought, Oh no. Did I speak too harshly? He immediately spoke up, Little Hua. Tanvan's face at this moment was bright with a radiant smile. But in his heart, he thought he would be demoted to an inner disciple to see if anyone would dare to comment on my laziness in the future. Tanvan asked Onjian with great interest, Sect master, when will you revoke my status as a true disciple? This made his face darken and he erupted in anger, gritting his teeth and saying, You, he pointed at Tanvan. Dream on, since the establishment of Tanvan Sword Sect, No true disciple has ever been dismissed. Onjian's face was furious. Dismissing you would be like slapping my face and the elders' faces, even getting so angry that the corners of his mouth bled slightly. Hearing his words made Tanvan's face slightly tearful. Damn it, I knew there was no way something good like that would happen. The sound rang out, causing both to turn their heads to pay respects to the sect master and senior brother Hua. Onjian's expression immediately changed. Oh, Jianxin is here. The short-haired girl stepped forward toward the two with countless inner disciples day and night, hoping to become true disciples. She furrowed her brows in confusion. Senior brother Hua wants to give up this rare opportunity. Why is that? The other party's appearance was beautiful. With an attractive figure, she was the top true disciple of Tanvan. Jianxin looked at the person in front of her. Tanvan had not yet responded. Jianxin, the true disciple of Tanvan's sword sect, was indeed a beauty. At a young age, her cultivation had already reached the 4th level of the spirit gathering realm, with strength and charisma both ranking at the top. Her light green hair fluttered in the air, considered the future of Tanvan's sword sect. That girl had a beautiful face. To the point that Tanvan held her, Tanvan was slightly stiff, turning his head back, silently, thinking about his status as the 55th true disciple of Tanvan's sword sect. He clenched his fist, turned his head, and said slowly, Junior Sister Jian, you may not know I have been stuck at the Spirit Palace realm for a long time. Hearing his words, her face showed a hint of confusion as she looked up. So I want to start over from the inner sect. He clenched his fists, his face resolute, saying, reinforce the basics. Then break through again, take a detour to rise up. Like the saying goes, review the old to learn the new. The other party was immediately surprised mouth agape, not expecting senior brother to be so ambitious. Moreover, he understood deeply about the path of cultivation, completely different from the rumors strongly bowing before Tanvan Jianxin was too shallow. He waved his hand, smiled, and said, oh, junior sister, you are being too polite. Seeing all this, even, Onjian had to helplessly sigh. Then he spoke. Little Hua, the reason I called Jianxin here, his voice paused slightly before continuing, is because the Hall Masters have a request for you. He glanced at Onjian, frowning. What request? Onjian smiled brightly, gesturing. They want you to... The tone of the other party rang out evenly, causing both of them to fall silent, along with Jianxin, to carry out the study task. The diligence and virtue of a top true disciple should have. Hearing those words, Jianxin was confused. A small voice, meanwhile, the person beside him, Tanvan, was stiff with fear. He softly called out, Sect Master, his gloomy voice trembling. Are you joking? At this moment, his face had sunken in only skin wrapped around bones, grey, like ash, recalling what Jianxin had done to train completely filled with challenges. It was Jianxin who had stirred up the competitive atmosphere of the sect. He could be called a king of provocation. He trembled inside, thinking, how can someone like this work together with me? Hearing his words, Onjian also replied, Little Hua Jianxin is the top true disciple in our sect. How many people are lined up wanting to consult her and they can't even get it? Now that you have the opportunity to carry out such a mission with it, what more could you possibly be dissatisfied with? Replied Mr. Tanvan with a strong and determined tone as the sect leader. I'm just worried that I'm too weak and might hinder my junior sister's cultivation. His face slightly frowned as he voiced a reasonable rebuttal, thinking that his junior sister wouldn't want anyone to trip her up either. He glanced nervously and anxiously at the sword hard, who immediately shouted, Senior brother, you're overthinking it. With a bright and cheerful face, she said joyfully, we are all fellow disciples, so we should help each other and progress together. The bright face of the sword hard continuously spoke of the benefits that could be achieved, and it was just right that Senior Brother Hua could take advantage of this mission to prove himself and dispel the rumors that everyone had fabricated about him. Hearing her words, Tanvan couldn't help but show signs of dangerous anxiety in his heart, fearing that she really wanted to pull him into a conflict. His face was filled with fear and confusion as he clasped his hands together seriously. Tanvan's expression darkened, becoming serious. Sect leader, my mission is not urgent. I'm just worried that no one will water the tea plants. He spoke cautiously, hoping to change Swordheart's mind to escape, while still secretly hoping that the sect leader would want him to undertake the mission without hesitation, inviting junior sister Nak along. But he was a person of principle and could rest comfortably at the sect. So why should I go far with the little girl? His face gradually became confused as he looked towards the sect leader, whose face was growing darker. Two fingers curled up, forming a sign of agreement, which suddenly made him puzzled as he turned to the sound, causing Tanvan to look up. Anxiously awaiting what was to come, the voice of Onjian was filled with danger. As long as you can successfully complete this mission, our sect will grant you a 3-day leave. Hearing those words made Tanvan's eyes widen slightly. His face went blank, then he seemed to realize something, and immediately a smile began to appear on his lips. 3 days of leave. Those words made his face even brighter as Tanvan reached out to grasp the sect leader's hand. With a bright face, he spoke earnestly. Sect leader, this matter cannot be delayed. Please tell me the details of the mission and the location. His voice was filled with responsibility and seriousness. Hua Tanvan, even if I have to climb mountains or descend into boiling oil, I will not refuse. Hearing his words, Onjian's face showed slight discomfort as he glanced at him. That noon, the weather was hot enough to melt fat. At that moment, Jianxin was practicing swordplay, her face serious and her body drenched in sweat. Meanwhile, Tanvan was tired and yawned. He walked over to where Jianxin was training, feeling sluggish. Junior sister hack, are you really that diligent? She also stopped resting the sword on her shoulder and replied to Tanvan, Senior brother Hua, you're 15 minutes late. She slightly placed her hands on her hips and looked at him. He, feeling dejected after hearing Jianxin's words, relaxed his brows a bit. If I don't take a nap, I won't have any energy in the afternoon, junior sister. He immediately cleared his throat. Cultivation is most important. It's to make the most of the time to practice. You came on time, and I've already swung my sword 3,000 times. As a cultivator in the Spirit Arch stage, you still need sleep, like ordinary people. She approached him, her brows slightly furrowed, her expression serious. Meanwhile, his face showed no expression. She shouted again, Are you being too lazy? Yanxin stared intently at him. Yes, junior sister is right. After I return, I will definitely practice twice as hard. That made Tanvan unable to refrain from responding, but his mind was still thinking about other things. Why does junior sister Hack, despite being so young, act like an old person? She slightly frowned and exhaled. It's getting late, we should set off. Both quickly advanced forward, majestically flying over the mountains while chatting about the mission. Senior brother Hua, what do you think about this mission? The sect leader has sent us to investigate the missing villages in the Tianvan mountain range, which is next to Tanhu City, a place that has been blood sacrificed. Tanvan spoke up. I suspect that the missing villagers have something to do with the demon sect. In response, Jianxin also spoke softly. You're right, I think so too. The two glided through the air quietly. Senior brother, don't worry, Jianxin said. Even though you've only reached the 6th layer of the Spirit Arch stage, I will protect you. Hearing her words, Tanvan glanced at her. Then he brightened up and smiled, thanking junior sister and secretly praising her for being unexpectedly reliable. His face lit up with a smile. Not only could he rely on her, but he also got a 3-day leave. This time was indeed a great fortune. The sun in the sky still smiled down upon them while Tanvan's mind was filled with thoughts. Full of thoughts, he silently thanked the sect leader. Jianxin spoke as she looked down. Here we are. This is the Tianvan mountain range. Facing them was a small village. She landed slowly and turned to look at Tanvan, who was still bowing his head. Let's search for the villages here to gather clues, she said, reaching into her robe as if looking for something. Seeing this made Jianxin confused, and she asked, Senior brother Hua, what do you think? Tanvan held a small watch in his hand, and the mysterious swordmaster looked at him with a puzzled expression. Tanvan continued to count 4, 3, 2, 1 as the sunset began to descend and the clouds started to obscure the sun. Immediately after, Tanvan cheerfully announced, The hour of the rooster has arrived. He tightly grasped the watch in his hand, his face filled with joy as he exclaimed loudly while his feet had already run off. We need to go rest now. The task of inquiring with the villagers will be handled by my junior sister. Okay? Tomorrow's meeting will surprise the swordmaster, but it cannot be stopped. The village was bustling with activity as people hurried about. The sounds of vendors calling out echoed around. At the incense hall, Tanvan suddenly stepped into the quiet space of the room. The head of the counter directed him to a room inside where neatly arranged dining tables awaited. Lao Tzu stood in front of the counter, seriously listening to what he said. Though there were customers, his mood was sluggish, only responding without bothering to move a silver coin. He presented a silver ingot, and the other party quickly replied, The 2nd floor turn left the room is at the end of the hall. He held the key in his hand and glanced at the man who had some twitching crab legs which confused Tanvan. Looking at it made him slightly uncomfortable, but he thought to himself, Never mind, it's time to rest now. He let out a soft sigh and averted his gaze, slowly making his way upstairs. Once he lay on the bed, he began to wonder how his junior sister, the musician, was investigating. Loud noises startled Tanvan awake, filled with confusion. All the rooms are fully booked, there's no extra space, came the annoyed voice of someone. The head of this inn clearly stated there were no rooms available. Why can't I stay here? The shout rang out again, and Tanvan suddenly sat up. It's not like I'm not paying. He was startled and bewildered, realizing he had dozed off. He slightly raised an eyebrow, still feeling a bit dazed. The familiar voice belonged to the head of the swordmaster, who stood up to confront the innkeeper. Are you saying this amount of silver is insufficient? The other party remained calm and emotionless. I said all the rooms are booked, you should leave. Hearing Tanvan's voice from behind made the musician pause. The musician cleared her throat. If the innkeeper says all the rooms are booked, then don't trouble him. Seeing Tanvan made her very delighted. Brother Hua, what are you doing here? His face was indifferent as he said to the innkeeper, It's fine for my junior sister to share a room with me, right? The innkeeper turned his face without emotion, replying casually, while looking at Tanvan, causing the musician's expression to freeze slightly. Share a room with you? She then shouted, Brother Hua, where? Tanvan ignored her and said, Follow me unless you want to sleep on the street. Her face turned slightly red, but she still replied, Okay. She took small, slow steps following Tanvan, whose face was serious and indifferent, showing no emotion. The swordmaster comforted herself while Tanvan simply closed his eyes and paid no mind. That's right, it's not like we're doing anything shameful. Why should I be embarrassed? A strange confidence echoed in her mind. Moreover, Brother Hua was just going to the spirit pavilion to observe. I can completely protect myself in the room. At this moment, Tanvan spoke up. Junior sister, have you eaten dinner yet? She replied with a simple no. On the table was a box of delicious and exquisite snacks. He asked, Do you want to eat a little? She frowned and said with a probing tone, "The swordmaster keeps shaking her shoulders, saying, 'Brother, we are cultivators, so we should be sincere and pure, don't let food tempt us,'" and kept talking. Only when the mind is tranquil can one... A cake from Tanvan was stuffed into her mouth, leaving her speechless. After feeding her, Tanvan waved his hand, his face calm, leaving the musician blushing alone. She gently chewed the cake in her mouth, her face slightly flushed. "I didn't think this cake would be sweet and not cloying. Once it enters the mouth, it melts, giving a very delicious feeling as if a cool stream was soaking into her heart. Oh no, I'm about to get lost in this sweet cake." Regaining her composure, she unexpectedly faced Tanvan, who was still eating the cake. She shouted, "Brother Hua, how can you sneak attack me with sweet cakes?" In response, he only maintained a calm expression. "Is it good?" She shyly glanced away and replied, "It's very good." Then she became confused. "But this food is not beneficial for our cultivation. We should eat less." He propped his chin and smirked, saying, "You're wrong." Tanvan shrugged and continued, "Junior sister, have you ever thought that avoiding the 5 desires and 3 troubles of the mundane world could help with cultivation?" She looked confused and turned to him. "Isn't that so?" He raised his hand. "No, that's not right." This made her face look puzzled. He glanced at his hand and continued, "We live in this world. The myriad things in the world cannot simply be avoided. Calling it avoidance only makes me feel exhausted and flustered, making it harder to cultivate." She leaned in closer, softly questioning, "But if one cannot sincerely cultivate, wouldn't they be submerged in the mundane world controlled by desires?" "How can one cultivate?" His serious face said, "I believe in cultivation. To truly cultivate is to dare to face the temptations of reality, bravely testing oneself." He pointed at the box of pastries and said, "It's like this pastry. If you fear its deliciousness and find it bothersome, then you should try it to get accustomed to it." Yang Xin looked towards the west, where he was pointing, remaining silent. Tanvan continued, "When you can see this pastry as something ordinary, unaffected by it, then you can be considered to have truly entered the realm of cultivation, enlightening the mind to perceive the truth." Tanvan pushed the tray of pastries towards Yang Xin, her serious expression as if recounting something wonderful. In truth, the true self manifests free from contamination, appearing naturally. Naturally at ease, hearing his words, Yang Xin's face paused slightly. Tanvan opened her eyes to admire the expression of the other, finding it somewhat amusing, responding to him with a blank look. Seeing that expression made Tanvan think, "Oh no, I accidentally spoke too much. Can this child even comprehend?" She cheerfully stood up, banging the table in front of him, causing him to step back slightly. "Hua Shixiong, I understand now." Yang Xin shouted, causing his face to stiffen. "Only when we confront our desires and abandon them can we reflect and return to the true path." He then looked at Yang Xin devouring the pastries. Eating the pastries in a terrifying manner while Tanvan was dumbfounded, her heart continuously scolding, "What do I even understand? Stop it! That's my snack!" He sulked, starting to climb onto the bed, then casually said, "Sorry, Shimei, you can just lie down for now." She replied to him with a joyful face, "Shixiong, I'm fine. I'm not sleeping, so I can just sit." The night sky was serene, the crescent moon shining down on the ground, casting a faint glow on the wooden floor. Jiang Xin was seriously cultivating while Tanvan had fallen deeply asleep. Unbeknownst to them, outside, a figure quietly stood before their room, mumbling to themselves, then took something out of their pocket. "Little girl, I originally wanted to spare you, but the incense is slowly burning." Small fragments fell. "Don't blame me." The smoke spread throughout the room, reaching every corner. Jiang Xin, who was meditating, was also surrounded by the smoke. She opened her eyes, wondering where the strange fragrance was coming from. When she fully awakened, the surrounding purple smoke surprised her. Jiang Xin stood up shakily, thinking, "Oh no, it's poison." Her face slightly wrinkled as she realized she had been poisoned and quickly fell down. Before completely fainting, Jiang Xin glanced at the bed where Hua Shixiong was, who was propping his chin and looking around. This surprised her, and she opened her eyes wide. Tanvan at that moment had a bored expression, showing no emotion. The mist did not cause her to faint. Jiang Xin, confused, lightly closed her eyes silently, calling for Hua Shixiong, then ultimately lost consciousness. In another part of the forest, a breeze gently blew. Causing the leaves to fly away chaotically, a slender figure appeared walking shakily. That person bowed respectfully before the one sitting high above a disciple of the Tanvan sword sect. Having been knocked out by the Lingxiang, that person leaned against a log, exuding an imposing aura. The innkeeper was trembling as he spoke with fearful eyes. One of them was indeed a direct disciple of the Tanvan sword sect. The other, whose identity was unclear, was only known as Hua Shixiong. That person immediately turned his head back, his red pupils glancing, then sighed. "I never expected you to capture Jiang Xin." He spoke up, confirming in a threatening tone. "As for this Hua Shixiong, I had never heard of him. He must just be a follower." The innkeeper continued to tremble, praising, "Thanks to the hidden aura of the master, I was not discovered." "So I was not detected." His face revealed a person with white hair and fiery red pupils with 3 long scars on his left cheek. "This time you have achieved great merit." The innkeeper outside also trembled, saying, "Master, yes. My wife and child jumped down slowly. Don't worry, they are fine. Now I will take you to meet them." Hearing this, the innkeeper intended to stand up, repeatedly thanking the master, when a surge of demonic energy pierced through him. Causing his body to be torn apart, the opponent licked the blood from his hands, then shouted loudly, "Finally, I am about to complete the final sacrifice." His face was filled with danger as he grinned wickedly. He shouted, "Number 3, number 4, bring 2 disciples of the Thanvan sword sect here." 2 others appeared, one with purple hair, while the other had a green belt around his waist. His face was sinister with large red eyes. At that moment, Jiang Xin had just woken up. She slightly opened her mouth, facing the eyes filled with sorrow from Thanvan. He spoke, "You're awake," looking at the person in front of her who was crossing her legs. She said, "Hua Shixiong," then reacted and jumped up, shouting loudly, "No, we need to leave quickly. It's very dangerous here." Thanvan could only look at Jiang Xin indifferently. She clenched her fist slightly, but when Jiang Xin looked over at Thanvan, he remained calm, causing her to pause. Jiang Xin said, "Brother, are you okay?" But at this moment, Thanvan's face only showed a faint smile as she leaned against the bed's headboard, full of mystery. However, she thought to herself that with the cultivation level of her senior brother, he would probably be defeated even sooner than she would. Thanvan also spoke up to respond. "When I sleep, I use the Tai technique, and do not utilize spiritual power like you all, so I did not inhale the Ling fragrance." He got out of bed and gradually moved towards the door, but after waiting for a while, he saw the other person act, so he dispelled the fragrant air in the room. To help you detoxify, on the table was a red incense stick that had burned a little. Unexpectedly, it was the lean fragrance. Looking at it, he sighed slightly, while Nakim Tam, at this moment, felt awkward as a cultivator under the 5th layer of the Death Cover realm. It was difficult to resist the poison of this type of incense. He then said, "Junior sister, your social experience is still too little. You cannot lack precautions like this." He stood up straight and wearily continued, "If you go on a mission alone this time, listen to what I say," which made Nakim Tam pause slightly and clench her fists, causing her to remain silent. "The consequences are unimaginable." After that, she clasped her hands and said, "Thank you, senior brother, for saving me. In the future, Kiamtam will definitely pay more attention." Thanvan, uninterested, poured a cup of water, looking at the cup in her hand that was emanating warmth. He gently said, "Junior sister, there's no need to be so polite. Drink some tea to warm yourself." He handed over the cup of tea politely, which made Nakim Tam feel grateful and say loudly, "Thank you, senior brother." In her heart, she had thoughts about him. Senior brother in the rumors is just a lazy, direct disciple. He reached out to take the warm cup of tea while Nakim Tam kept thinking. Unexpectedly, just in 2 or 3 sentences, he could awaken her. She took a sip of tea. After that, she continued to remain vigilant and save my life. Kim Tam glanced at Thanvan, who was drinking tea at that moment. "Thoughtful personality appearance is not bad. It's just a pity that the cultivation feels off." Kim Tam lightly patted her beautiful face. "Wait, what am I thinking?" She shivered, causing the tea to splash up. Confused, he asked, "Junior sister, do you feel better?" Hearing his words made her shy, not knowing how to respond. Kim Tam blushed and said, "Thank you, senior brother, for your concern. It's nothing serious." She waves her hand. Could it be that... Outside, a purple light was flashing on the roof. A woman with purple hair was descending at high speed, surrounded by a source of demonic energy. Feeling the strange gaze of someone, Nakim Tam turned sharply and stood in front of Thanvan, saying, "There's killing intent." Nakim Tam turned back and said to Thanvan, trembling, "Senior brother, be careful." In response, Thanvan began to prepare. "If you have recovered, then please help me. After all, this is not the time to work." He intended to climb onto the bed, which made Nakim Tam look confused, but she quickly convinced herself to dismiss it. Both of them were masters of the Death Cover realm. Senior brother is just at the Spirit Bow realm. Going would only add trouble, saying that she quickly flew out of the room. Before her eyes was the source of purple, demonic energy approaching. Kim Tam gripped the sword tightly in her hand, thinking, I thought it was... Her face turned hot as she swung her sword. "You all arrived just in time." A purple streak cut through 2 people in the Death Cover realm, sending them flying backward, leaving only a faint trace of light blue energy. That slash caused a loud explosion in the middle of the forest with a source of death energy rising from the woods. She stood high, watching the black energy rise at a visible speed. 2 people with purple hair were wearing the uniform of the Donghuang Ziling sect. Her face was full of arrogance, her eyes seeming to disregard the direct disciples of the Ziling sect. "Why are you here, fellow cultivators?" Then, unexpectedly, upon seeing their gaze, the eyes of the 2 had turned completely black, surrounded by a small electric current. Kim Tam remained silent. They were blood puppets, their souls possessed by dark magic. Then the purple energy, like a double-edged knife, shot towards her. This was the magic of the demonic sect. The disappearance of Van Village was indeed their doing. The 2 of them once again condensed their demonic power towards her. But Kim Tam stood there majestically, tilting her head to evade the attacks of these 2. Her gaze followed their attacks, which came continuously. Their strength was at least at the 3rd or 4th layer of the Death Cover realm. The cracks caused by the battle began to appear. Nakim Tam stomped on a piece of land in front and said, "Just right, I'm also feeling uncomfortable now." Her face was terrifying. Thanvan executed a sword technique that pierced through both of them, causing them to collapse. Thanvan's sword technique, Tiu Van Duan Nguyet, targeted the 2 members of the Ziling sect as they lifted their feet. They struggled to move to avoid Nakim Tam's attack. She watched them and pointed, opening her mouth to pronounce judgment. The attack spread everywhere, causing the 2 members of the Ziling sect to frantically dodge. The woman was attacked, unable to hold back her gritted teeth, while the man was pressured in a terrifying manner. Both quickly fell to the ground with only Nakyam Tam standing above them. It was the spiritual power of her own. That was what Thanvan saw. He thought, oh, I didn't expect to be able to unleash such a splitting sword light. He leaned against the pillow to rest, but even so, the power had diminished. Fighting with divine consciousness is indeed convenient. I don't even need to open my eyes to look around and think that the two disciples of the Death Spirit sect won't be easily defeated. Just as Tanvan said, those two are preparing to stand up again. The woman trembles, daring to approach, while the opponent begins to show harmful sources of dark energy. Feng Ni, the sword heart, remains completely indifferent, not yet fully transformed into a blood mass, still retaining a bit of consciousness. The person approaches, speaking softly. The woman pulls out a long dagger aimed at the sword heart, declaring that you must die. She takes a step back to gain momentum, causing the ground to crack, then leaps, powerfully releasing the dagger towards the sword heart, who is soaring high. Still, there was no movement. She quickly blocked the attack from the woman of the Death Spirit sect. The sword heart silently thinks surprised that she can wield such a heavy weapon. Quickly parrying the attack with her sword, the pressure makes her frown slightly. Then the source of spiritual energy clashes again, causing the wind to swirl. The two fight continuously, leaving streaks of light in the sky. Below, the rocks are also lifted due to the terrifyingly fast movements. The sword heart continues to ponder, wondering what kind of monster this is. My hands are numb now, and I release the sword while thinking. The woman of the Death Spirit sect still holds a long dagger standing in a stance. She turns and swings her hand violently. Then she focuses her spiritual energy into one point and quickly shoots it towards the sword heart. That attack is dangerous, but she swiftly dodges it safely, then speaks, "That's enough." She raises her hand, condensing spiritual energy into her sword in a beautifully arranged room. As expected of the top disciple, Thanvan leans against a pillow, continuously murmuring comments about the brief clashes. Knowing the opponent's strength, he slightly opens one eye. Although both are at the 4th level of the Death Spirit realm, the disciple of the Death Spirit sect has had their soul taken and transformed into a blood mass, only able to fight on instinct, which is a heavy disadvantage. At this moment, the sword heart is drawing her sword and continuously channeling spiritual energy into it. As she truly absorbs spiritual energy, the sword begins to glow, leaving a turbulent stream of water above the woman of the Death Spirit sect. At this moment, she still intends to attack the sword heart. He glances at her, his expression cold and indifferent. However, it seems that the music disciple cannot sense the danger that is present outside as the wind continues to rise. He reaches out to catch a leaf that is slowly falling. This should be enough. Thainvan's sword technique. At this moment, the sword heart is slowly drawing her sword from its sheath. Around her, faint green sources of spiritual energy shine brightly. Then the sword heart says, "Draw the sword technique," and rushes straight towards the woman from the Death Spirit sect fiercely. Even though she uses her staff to block the attack from the sword heart, shatters it, leaving only her body covered in light and the remnants after a bloody battle. Along with the falling stones and dust scattering around, she thinks and steps on the stones, approaching the woman of the Death Spirit sect. Even though she is trembling, it can be considered subdued now. Next, I need to think of a way to help them awaken. Meanwhile, the sword heart, not paying attention, has a branch of an arm holding a fan aimed at her. The fan strikes straight at her without hesitation, and the sword heart turns around in panic. It's over. That fan pierced through the white veil she had just activated, stabbing straight into her body, but was shattered by someone's green spiritual energy, flying towards another mountain. The sword heart's face is now stunned and fearful. She glances at the earlier move confused, but still approaches the man of the Death Spirit sect, thinking that if hit, she would surely be seriously injured. What is that green light? She thinks quickly and slips behind the man while the opponent is still panting heavily. Then the sword heart strikes the back of the opponent's neck with the hilt of her sword, causing him pain. Who exactly helped bring the two disciples of the Death Spirit sect back to the inn? The two lie on the chairs as the sword heart places them. Currently, she is still pondering while Tanvan speaks up. "It seems that you have resolved it." In response, she says, "Senior brother Hua," before he slightly interrupts her words. Tanvan says, "I have always been here." His face smiles dangerously as he asks, "What's wrong?" Seeing that face, the sword heart quickly replies, "No, nothing." She thinks, I must be overthinking. Senior brother Hua is just at the 6th level of the spirit realm. How could he have such abilities? She points to the two people lying on the chairs. "Senior brother. While their legs are still fine, we must quickly take them back to the sect and ask the elders to arrange a formation to purify the evil spirits. To eliminate the blob mass technique." The sword heart continues, but if that's the case, the evil sect will escape and then go to another place to harm people. He thinks and replies, "For the sake of the world and its beings, for a 3-day leave." He thinks and exhales, then stands up. Tanvan says, "It seems I have no choice but to take action." He gathers dark energy into his palm. She looks at his hand confused. "Brother, what do you want?" Tanvan replies, "I will use divine consciousness to enter his mind and extract the blood mass." Hearing his words, the sword heart expresses her concern. "Senior brother, are you crazy?" The mind is where the true spirit of the cultivator resides. Any carelessness could cause the true spirit to collapse. Hearing the sword heart's words, he reassures her, "Don't worry, junior sister." Tanvan reaches out to touch the two of them. She screams when she sees him starting to act like that, with a face full of fear. Wait, does the senior brother want to extract the blood clots from both of them at the same time? That's against nature. Tenvan smiled with delight as if it were natural. Saving people is like putting out a fire, doing it simultaneously is the fastest way. As for the sword heart, she panicked and exclaimed that the key point is not whether it's fast or not, but whether it's safe or not. Her eyes slowly opened. Fengyi saw this and happily exclaimed, Tuvan is awake. She sat on the chair, rubbing her eyes. Fengyi sensed something and turned to look at her. Her whole body stiffened. You are disciples of Tanvan sword sect. Nyakimtam, standing beside, smiled and spoke. Hello, Tuvan, I am Nyakimtam, and this is Hua, our senior brother. Fengyi turned to comfort Tuvan. Vanti Nyakimtam is the top disciple of Tanvan sword sect. They saved us. She felt a headache and raised her hand to hold her face. I remember now. Tuvan recalled the events. They had been captured by the elder of the demon sect. Tanvan, sitting beside, began to ask, Can you tell me how you were captured? She lowered her head, looking a bit worried. A week ago, Fengyi and I were ordered by the sect to investigate the disappearance of villagers. We were both walking on a wide road with shops and inns on both sides. The two hid behind some bushes on the road to investigate. We discovered the elder of the demon sect using the blood of villagers to perform a ritual, and a person dressed in black was creating a magic circle. Causing everything around to float up as a result, we fell into a trap set by the opponent beforehand. Both of us were attacked by strange hands and then suppressed. Tuvan, looking worried, recounted everything. Unexpectedly, we fell victim to dark magic and became blood clots. She quickly clasped her hands and bowed her head. Thank you for saving us, fellow Taoists. Kiemtam, panicking, raised her hand. No need for thanks. Then Kiemtam pointed to where he was sitting drinking tea. The one who saved you is my senior brother Hoa. Tuvan went to him and thanked him. Hoa Dao Hu, thank you for your assistance. We will definitely repay this life-saving grace. She awkwardly glanced away, recalling the blood clots that had come out of both of their mouths. Gradually flying out, Tanvan raised his hand to extract the blood clots. The senior brother extracted the blood clots from both of them at the same time. He calmly patted his hands while Kiemtam beside him was in constant panic. She couldn't believe her eyes. Thousands of thoughts rushed through her mind. What was buried in consciousness was the blood clots. Even without considering the danger to life, extracting them was as difficult as searching for a needle in a haystack. Even a sect elder might not be able to do it. Kiemtam hurriedly ran over to ask, Tanvan, when did you learn this technique? He tilted his head and sighed. Previously, when I was studying at the library, I accidentally saw a fragment of a technique that taught how to control spiritual consciousness. I found the content quite interesting, so I learned it. Fragment means the technique is not yet complete. Senior brother, are you playing with fire? Tanvan rested his chin on his hand and continued surprising her to the point of bowing her head. However, to save you, I used a lot of precious materials, costing about 30,000 spirit stones. Kiemtam, furious, said, Clearly you acted very lightly. How could you use any precious materials? Everyone was not foolish. How could they agree? Tuvan hurriedly clasped her hands and said, Dao Hu, rest assured, after we return to the sect, we will bring spirit stones to repay. His eyes sparkled as if he knew beforehand. Kiemtam was extremely surprised. Really? Tanvan, with a smug expression, thought that to arrange the Tantam exorcism formation to dispel the blood clots would require 50,000 high-grade spirit stones. 30,000 is already a friendly price. How could it not be taken? He smiled and said to them, making her stand beside him, puff her cheeks in discontent. It's not urgent. Tanvan sword sect and Tulin sect have a friendship. Saving you both is also my duty. By the way, can you two remember the specific situation when you went to catch the elder of the demon sect? Tuvan, with a serious expression, recounted, His name is Makhien, and his strength is not that great. I could handle him alone, but his specialty is using formations and toxins. We were poisoned by him. Tanvan waved his hand, interrupting her. So that's it. Then it's simple. He smiled and asked, I have a type of elixir that can make you immune to the poison for 3 watches. Do the 3 of you have confidence in subduing the elder of the demon sect? Tuvan was visibly delighted. If we can be immune to the poison, I will kill him immediately. But then she suddenly realized something unusual. Tuvan raised her hand to scratch her head and asked, causing Tanvan to freeze, Why is it the 3 of us? Isn't Hoa Dao Hu not going with us? He raised his hand and pretended to cough a few times. Just now, when I helped you both drive away the blood clots, it cost me a large amount of spiritual power. Tanvan rubbed his forehead and sighed, making her stand beside him, unable to hold back. I need to sleep for a while to recover. The two looked at him with worried expressions as if we had poor memories and forgot the hardships of our friend. Don't worry, just rest and leave the rest to us. Then we will trouble everyone. That evening, the 3 of them hurried through the forest. She raised the green elixir in her hand, her face showing some doubt, wondering if this potion really worked, as our friend said. Yangxin stared intently at her clenched hand, trusting her senior brother. All 3 of them put the elixir in their mouths, and after chewing, Ziyun exclaimed, It melts as soon as it hits the tongue. It was no different from ordinary elixirs. Judging by her appearance, our friend didn't seem to have a high cultivation level. I didn't trust it much. A gentle breeze brushed through the clouds in the sky, drifting lightly with the wind. Then they obscured the shining moon, making the surroundings dark. Jiangxi noticed something unusual. Her eyes sharpened. Jiang Xin turned her face back and drew her sword, realizing something was off. Feng Ni, looking somewhat anxious, said, "Since half a stick of incense ago, there hasn't been any aura from any living beings." Ziyun quickly took her weapon, blocking in front of her. Could it be that those red eyes surrounded the three of us? At that moment, a voice suddenly rang out. "This means you have stepped into my formation." Jiang Xin quickly glanced in another direction and swiftly struck multiple blows towards those red eyes. The attacks quickly rushed towards them, causing dry branches to fall to the ground. A cloud of black smoke appeared, forcing Jiang Xin to close one eye. When she opened her eyes, the scene before her had changed. Where did this muddy water come from? She hurriedly said to the other two, "It seems this black mud was transformed from the corpses of the dead beings bound by the formation here. The resentment is too heavy." Jiang Xin approached and asked, "Did you two see the person who was talking earlier?" A figure in a cloak appeared behind her. "Are you looking for me?" The hood fell, revealing a face with a sinister smile. He grinned wickedly, approaching them. Ziyun shouted loudly, causing the two to turn around in shock. "Old thief Moxian!" He frowned and asked, "You managed to dispel my blood clot so quickly." The old man Taban glanced at Ziyun, realizing that the eldest disciple of Qingyan Sword Sect had a hidden treasure. Jansek tightly gripped her sword, her eyes flashing with light. He spread his arms and laughed. "Why is one person missing? Are you scared after hearing my great name?" Ziyun gritted her teeth and spoke, "Because I rushed in with the weapon firmly in hand, dealing with trash like you is enough for me alone." Ziyun struck down hard at him, causing the ground to explode with stones flying up. Dust rose thickly from behind, then gradually dispersed to reveal Ziyun, holding her weapon with no one in sight. She pursed her lips and looked up her face, somewhat worried. The old man Tavan smiled from the side. "You've been injured once already. And yet, you still fell into the trap." Ziyun quickly circled behind him. "Shut up, you're about to die." She jumped high, continuing to launch an attack. The old man Tavan calmly looked up, and when the strike was about to hit him, it was blocked. "The disciples of the main sect are all as foolish as each other." He smiled triumphantly. "Does my true bone fragrance smell good?" Ziyun and Feng Ni exchanged panicked glances. A poisonous aura from another direction quickly struck towards the old man Tavan. He gently turned to block it, but soon realized something was wrong with the attack. It broke through the barrier and continued to rush towards him. When the strike hit the old man Tavan, he swiftly vanished from there. Stones were kicked up, slowly falling. The three hovered in the air. The chaos below was immense. Jiang Xin stood above, looking down at the ground with a large hole. She gritted her teeth in anger. "Did I miss?" Suddenly, the surrounding leaves began to dissolve. Jiang Xin saw this and panicked. "It's poisonous gas." The smoke concentrated in one place, his body gradually becoming clearer. "Jiang Xin, you indeed have some skill." The old man Tavan stood higher than Jiang Xin, looking down. He laughed loudly. "It's useless. You have already fallen for my true bone fragrance." The old man Tavan, with a sinister expression, pointed down. "It's been over 10 seconds now. Fall for me, dust scattering." Jiang Xin and Feng Ni remained unharmed. They sensed something unusual, and both looked at the old man Tavan, sneering. Ziyun appeared from behind him. "Why is one person missing?" She struck hard at the elder Tavan's neck and shouted, "Take a punch from me, elder Tavan." In pain, he spat blood and was knocked down from high up straight to the ground. Feng Yi quickly took a stance and unleashed numerous attacks from various angles towards him. The elder Tavan, just having been hit, was unable to defend against the next blow. The earth and stones shattered into many small pieces and the dust gradually cleared. He coughed up a large pool of blood. "Ugh!" The elder Tavan, with an angry expression, braced himself on the ground to lift his body up, gasping for breath. He glared at them with eyes full of anger. "You three are still standing up high, forcing me to look up. Why didn't you get poisoned?" Tuvan squinted one eye and stuck out his tongue, teasing. "No way." She clenched her fist, thinking how powerful the elixir from her friend Hoa was. Without fearing those despicable tricks, dealing with the demon sect was basically as easy as turning over her hand. The elder Tavan fell to the ground. The toxicity of the real bone fragrance was even stronger than the spirit fragrance. Even if he sealed his aura, it would still penetrate his skin. Except for my antidote, no elixir could cure this poison. He gritted his teeth in anger. Could it be that they have some secret treasure? The golden eyes of Kiem Tam sparkled. "That's enough for now." She raised her sword high. Tanvan sword technique. The elder Tavan wiped the blood from his face with his hand and used the other hand to hold his shoulder. "Is that all you have?" He stomped hard on the ground to leap up, creating a large hole where he had just stomped. "That's right, the game ends here." He generated a massive force that enveloped the area. The grand formation of blood-condensing heaven was activated, causing the surroundings to tremble violently, startling all three of them. "What's happening?" Kim Tam bit her lip, trying to look up. There stood Tavan, high above, laughing loudly. "I told you, you have fallen into my formation." He commanded, and the ground around them began to move. "Number one, deal with them." Tuvan looked at them with a very confused expression as the mud below slowly began to form into a human shape. When it was created, there was a strange symbol on its chest. It opened its mouth wide, revealing sharp fangs. Feng Yi and Tuvan were panicking while Kiem Tam remained calm, standing still. Its soulless eyes and large mouth exhaled smoke as she frowned and stared at it. Seeing this, he confidently laughed. "None of you will escape, including the coward from Van Village." Tavan raised his hand to create a spark of fire, laughing maniacally. I've already sent number 25 to the underworld. Kim Tam felt a sudden fear. It's over, Hwasu. Huin is in danger. On the side, Tanvan was completely unaware, sleeping soundly. A gentle hand opened the door and a faint light shone into the room. A huge monster climbed in through the small window, 3 pairs of bright red eyes staring intently at something. It then slowly walked over to the empty bed. Tanvan sensed it and opened one eye. Oh, you want me to work overtime? It slammed hard against the door, causing wooden splinters to fly everywhere. He remained calm, lying still on the bed. The door was broken and a large figure stepped in, making him open his eyes wide. Once inside, it let out a loud roar, but suddenly laughter echoed, causing it to fall silent. Ha ha ha. Tanvan stood up from the bed, searching for someone. Can't you come back? His serious expression asked, Do you have to drag people into a fight? A large magic circle was covering part of the forest. Kiemtam turned around and glanced over there. She swung her hand hard, creating multiple slashes that rushed towards the monster being formed. It also reached out its hand and used its strength to deliver a powerful blow, blocking those slashes. Tuvan, holding her weapon, approached from behind it. She quickly attacked, but it had already noticed and turned around to defend. The monster's hand tightly gripped the weapon, catching Tufan off guard. It forcefully threw her far away. The two standing at a distance saw it charging towards Tuvan. Fengyi, standing behind, hurriedly launched an attack. Kim Tam was startled, locking onto Tuvan. Long chains rushed forward and wrapped around its entire body. The monster's eyes turned fierce, and then it let out a loud roar, causing the chains to shatter. A slash appeared from nowhere and flew quickly towards it. It unexpectedly slashed across, preventing the monster from defending. The part that was cut apart then reconnected. Kim Tam bowed her head, holding her sword tightly. She raised her face, biting her lip as she looked at it. The monster, though cut in half, was unharmed, and lowered its hand, gripping tightly onto its lower body. After that, the entire body of the monster was reconnected, and it wore a sinister smile on its mouth. Kim Tam saw all this and was extremely startled. It stomped hard on the ground and shot off quickly, launching a powerful counterattack. Kim Tam shouted loudly from the side, but because it was too sudden, Fengyi couldn't dodge in time. Cautiously, he was hit and flew far away from where he was. Tuvan anxiously turned to call out to Fengyi, looking down at the ground where he lay. A large pool of blood flowed everywhere. Tuvan's eyes turned furious beyond measure. How dare you hit Fengyi? She stomped hard to launch herself. Seeing this, it turned to look at Tuvan, and then appeared behind her to attack the monster. It was knocked back, and she then performed a high and far tumble away from there. Her legs gradually descended from above. Kim Tam hurriedly said to Tuvan, This one has boundless strength and is very powerful. We will be killed sooner or later. Her face tired, she replied to Kim Tam, I have a move that can directly turn him to dust. Hearing this, her expression immediately changed. Really? Tuvan interjected, but it requires time to gather strength. She then asked Kim Tam, Please help me buy some time. Although she was drenched in sweat, she agreed. Assigned to me, Tavan stood above observing and laughing loudly, ha 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 ha. Whatever tricks you have, just show them. Number 1 is created from your blood techniques, and you will also become my offering. He realized something and quickly glanced over. Tavan smiled cunningly. Number 2, is it over so soon? It seems this direct disciple is quite weak. On the other side, Fu was in great danger. He was currently being bound by Thanvan's magic, almost killed in an instant. He continued to watch, not allowing the elder of the demon's sect to sense anything. Thanvan turned to look elsewhere. I just want to sleep peacefully, yet you still disturb me. He reached out closer to her hair. If that's the case, I'll give you a gift. Thanvan tightly grabbed number 2's hair, forcefully pulling her head and dragging her away. As they reached the door, Thanvan saw something strange in the distance, a large red orb lying within the forest. He closed his eyes and pointed straight at it. Over there. She was tied up and could only lay there helplessly, allowing Thanvan to do as he pleased. He opened his eyes wide and shouted, Die! Thanvan forcefully threw number 2 straight towards the orb. She was thrown at high speed, crying in fear as a flash of light appeared in the night sky. Number 2 foamed at the mouth and fainted on the spot. He turned and walked into the room. It would be a while before the time of Thai arrived. Thanvan rubbed his forehead and sighed, wondering if there were any better rooms available. Getting another nap on the side of Kim Tam, many large hands were rushing towards her. Kim Tam hurriedly drew her sword to block it. She squinted one eye, trying to withstand the blows, but lacking the strength to stop them, Kim Tam was pushed back. She braced herself on the ground to prevent sliding too far. Kim Tam raised her hand to wipe the blood from her mouth, breathing heavily. Phew, phew. She looked at the monster before her, thinking to herself, how is this blood technique becoming stronger with the support of the formation? Number 1, standing high above, wore a wicked smile. Tavan spread his arms and spoke, No wonder you are the top disciple of Thanvan Sword Sect. You have endured until now, but it will end soon. He laughed loudly and commanded number 1 to attack. Receiving Tavan's order, it quickly charged up. The Sword Sect members below looked up at number 1 approaching them. She was tense, biting her lip. Tavan, I'm sorry, but I... Suddenly, a flash of light in the sky distracted Tavan. He quickly turned his eyes to the source of the light. An arrow was flying towards them. What is that? A huge explosion occurred everywhere, all red and blinding. Kim Tam, standing next to the explosion, quickly raised her hands to shield her face. Large stones flew high and dust clouds spread everywhere. On the other side, the space was just like here. On one side, Kiamtam looked bewildered, while on the other, Tavan's expression darkened. Two blood techniques lay sprawled on the ground. One had its head buried in the ground. The other was smashed to pieces. He couldn't believe it, holding his head and shouting, "Number 2! How could this happen?" The sword sect looked up at the hole in the formation. Great brother is fine. She felt a bit happy, wondering which elder had come here. Tavan, hearing this, became anxious. The elder of Thanvan's sword sect has arrived. This is troublesome. He raised his hand to use magic. I must hurry. Tavan loudly recited the incantation. The monster lying below suddenly stood up. The blood technique enhancement was gradually being restored and moved towards Kiamtam. The pieces of blood technique wrapped around her legs. Kiamtam grimaced, looking down. Damn, what is this? Tuvan approached from afar. Musical friend, I've been waiting for a long time. She turned her face with joy. Tuvan, my friend! She rushed over quickly, her eyes filled with anger, her teeth clenched. Tuvan exclaimed in shock, what, this is just the 4th layer of the Death Covering Realm. How can it have the power of the 8th layer? Tuvan collided with the blood technique. Tuan caused a huge explosion. Many flashes, like lightning, shot up high from a broken door. Looking at the purple light shining inside, Tanvan, wearing a blindfold, slept soundly on the bed. He pulled the blindfold up and yawned. Tanvan completely pulled the blindfold down. His face was still not awake. He put on his slippers and got out of bed. Tanvan walked to the window to welcome the morning sunlight and the gentle breeze. He happily opened his eyes, gazing outside at the fire before him. Tanvan thought to himself, indeed a peaceful day. His face was blank as he looked towards the forest, not expecting that the disciples had fought all night. The elder of the demon sect was indeed not simple. Tanvan reached into his robe to search for something. He took out a box and opened it. Over there, the formation is gradually disappearing and the dust is rising from the broken spot earlier. The space was now extremely chaotic. Tuvan held her weapon, looking at the blood technique lying at her feet. She tiredly collapsed to the ground. Kiamtam, standing behind, spoke up. The explosion's force is truly astonishing. Fengyi held her arm and came over. This is the unique technique of the Death Spirit sect. We can accumulate spiritual power and then explode at once. He went to help Tuvan stand up, but the flaw was too obvious. The accumulation time was too long. Both happily looked at Kiamtam, this time thanks to Nakdaohu's help. She smiled brightly, waving her hand. Oh no, I just did what I had to do. A loud shout rang out, causing all three to quickly look up at 3 little beasts. Tuvan, trembling, struggled to say, there is still one lonely commander that needs to be dealt with. Sister Van, standing high above killing intent, surrounded her, dared to destroy my hard work. I spent about 15 to cultivate her, holding the weapon tightly in her hand. Upon seeing this, Fengyi immediately advised Van not to force herself anymore. That last move had nearly exhausted all her spiritual energy. Jianxin stood aside and spoke, leave this to me. She held the sword in her hand and green light enveloped her body. He spread his arms wide, unleashing many spells. Today the 3 of you will be buried here. Countless hands rushed down towards Jianxin. She swung the sword, executing multiple strikes of the Qingyun sword technique. Jianxin's attacks pierced through Tavan's assault, heading straight for him, just as the hands were about to reach her. She remained calm, standing still with her eyes closed. In an instant, those hands shattered into many pieces. Jianxin pursed her lips and glanced at Tavan, who gritted his teeth, looking down at his weakened state. Tavan raised his hand and shouted, let me see how many more sword strikes you can make. Jianxin ignored him and simply said, the formation beneath your feet is about to crack. Immediately the ground around Tavan shattered. This took him by surprise. Tavan gaped in disbelief as she aimed precisely at the gap that had been broken before. He bit his lip until it bled, not expecting that she could force him to this point. Tavan raised his hand. Using his power, he pointed to the sky, channeling a spell into his head. His hands appeared much more wrinkled than before, slowly lowering. Tavan's face also showed more wrinkles. Yanxin stood below, watching him, thinking to herself, He rotated both palms facing each other, creating a ball of energy. Jianxin became more anxious. This isn't good. He was about to use a secret technique. From behind, many attacks struck her back. Jianxin turned her eyes to look behind. It's over. The spiritual energy had been sealed. She gritted her teeth and asked, why are both of you now under control? Their eyes became soulless. Ha ha ha, my blood block technique cannot be easily undone. Tavan laughed sinisterly, commanding, Number 3, Number 4, bring her here. Both immediately obeyed the command. He taunted, even though you are very talented in front of me, you are just a little demon. Jianxin tightly closed one eye and gritted her teeth. I will make you the first sacrifice. Tavan's hand grew larger, his expression sinister. Sacrifice for my great formation, the blood refining technique. She was controlled, only able to stand still and wait for death. I'm sorry, sect leader and master. As the eldest disciple of the sect, I have failed against the demon sect. Memories flooded Jianxin's mind, tears streaming down her cheeks, and there was also Hua, her senior brother, due to the sect's negligence.
Just as it was about to touch her, a voice rang out. Ha ha ha! Stop! Tanvan appeared from behind, speaking. Let my sister go. Tanvan immediately turned to look at him. Kenshin cried out, "Senior brother Hua."
He turned around, scanning the area. Where did this spirit archer come from? Elder Tanvan had killed blood block number 2. He sighed and said, "Don't look anymore. It's just me here." Genshin anxiously shouted, "Senior brother Hua, hurry and run. You are no match for him." Tavan gleefully laughed. "If you have revealed yourself, then I will come for you first." "Starting with you?" he said calmly, extending his hand, sending a flurry of shards flying towards him, his red eyes staring intently. Tavan's hand was covered in fresh blood. "Number 3, you go to protect Jianshin. How is that possible?" He trembled with anger. "This is the blood block that I activated from my own spiritual blood. Its power is several times stronger than a normal blood block. No matter how powerful your secret treasures are, you cannot break it in an instant." Fengni quickly rushed in using chains to bind Tavan. "Stop talking and fight. Number 4, you too." She fiercely thrust the staff in her hand. He was bound by the chains and dragged away. Tuvan twirled the weapon in her hand. A massive explosion occurred, devastating the surrounding space. "Die." After it happened, only a pit remained. Jianshin, confused, turned to Tanvan and asked, "Senior brother Hua?" Jianshin asked, while he calmly looked over, "What on earth is going on?" Tuvan also approached, asking, "What exactly did you do, Hua?" Tanvan extended his hand and smiled. "I just used a little trick. It's time to expel the blood block from their subconscious. I discovered that the roots of the seed have wrapped around the spiritual essence of both of them. A red lump with a strange shape, people feared it would harm their spiritual essence, so they only eliminated the seed outside. A single slash cut the external roots, but this means both of them could be controlled again at any time. The two of them could be controlled at any moment. Therefore, I left a few traces of sword energy in the consciousness of the two people. Once the elder of the demon sect activates the blood seed again, this sword energy will cut it off." Tuvan and Fengni quietly listened at this critical moment. Perhaps it will turn the situation around. Tuvan hurriedly bowed his head, and Fengni also spoke up. "So that's it. Hua, my friend, you are really thoughtful. I admire you, little sister." Kiemtam, with a sad expression, lowered her head and asked, "Brother Hoa, why didn't you discuss this with me?"
What if we fail?
She looked at Tanvan with resentment, making him flustered. "We've already succeeded, so what are you still worried about?" Tanvan raised his hand to support his chin and chuckled. "Sister, don't be upset just because you couldn't hold the head. And feeling like I don't exist this time, if we can defeat the elder of the demon sect, you are the most important character." Kiemtam suddenly asked back, "Really?" He began to explain, "If I didn't hide it from you, how could I use the most genuine acting to deceive the elder of the demon sect?" Tuvan also quickly added, "That's right, otherwise, we wouldn't be able to easily approach that old thief." Kiemtam thought about something and then said. Tanvan also stood beside her, echoing, "It seems that's true." She looked at Brother Hua with admiration, saying that although his cultivation was low, he unexpectedly turned out to be a clever strategist, someone who could see through everything. Tanvan stood aside, smirking and thinking about something. "Since I've resolved everything before going to work, doesn't that mean I can take my leave earlier?" Suddenly a noise startled Tanvan. Below, Tavan continued to stand up and activate the formation. What the great formation of blood refinement has been activated again. The 4 people wondered, could it be that Guy is not dead yet? He looked down and shivered. "Damn, I knew it. What is this early leave about? It's my turn now." He pushed his hands against the ground and slowly stood up. The blood seed lying there also stirred. It was blood seed number 1 and blood seed number 2. Tavan stood up, stretching his body, and a light emanated from his abdomen. Tanvan looked down and asked, "What is he refining?" From Tavan's body, a weapon was slowly emerging. Kiemtam hurriedly attacked. "Don't get too proud." Tanvan's sword technique made Tavan's face darken as he pulled out a weapon from his abdomen and charged towards Tavan. "Break the sword in 10. He breathed heavily and said, "It's too late now." Tavan raised the spear in his hand to block Kiemtam's attack. He laughed sinisterly. "The great formation of blood refinement is complete." She squinted one eye, looking at the trembling sword in her hand. "Not good. That's my last strike." Kiemtam turned around. "Everyone, our spiritual energy is depleted. Let's retreat." After saying that, she quickly dashed away. Tanvan still stood there, gently speaking. "Everyone go ahead. I'm almost there." The group turned back to look at Tanvan. "Ha, Brother Hua, what are you still waiting for? Hurry up." Suddenly the ground shook and a loud voice shouted, "If you want to run, something is rushing towards you." It quickly grabbed the 3 people in its hands. Tavan shouted from a distance, "You lowly beings, this is just the real hell." Tuvan struggled to escape. "Damn it, I've run out of spiritual energy. Otherwise, how could I be captured? Can't we kill this guy?" Kiemtam looked at him. Just now it was clearly only the 5-layered death realm. How could it be that now? She couldn't believe her eyes and gritted her teeth. 8-layered death realm. Van and Fengni spoke up. "Damn it, the 4 of us are to be used as sacrifices and we are all here." How could he complete the great formation of blood refinement? Could it be that he absorbed from those 2 blood seeds? Tavan replied with a sinister smile. "Heh, that's not wrong. Number 1 and number 2 were originally my collectibles, but unexpectedly you defeated them." Tuvan struggled to speak. "That's not right. Even though the strength of blood seed number 1 can match 2, blood seed number 2's strength is not inferior either. Together, they are only 3. She seemed to realize something in her head. Could it be that he raised the spear in his hand and laughed loudly? That's right, adding me, I can also be a sacrifice. He pointed the spear forward and said, the demon seed of the blood, refinement, demon weapon, is the first move for the demon lord to dominate the world. Both of them were surprised by those words. The blood refinement demon weapon. Tanvan stood aside and began to count down. 5, 4. Brother, what are you still looking at? Feng Yi's worried expression on the ancient scroll, recorded thousands of years ago when the demon soldiers first appeared, countless righteous experts were killed, and most territories fell into the hands of the demon sect's powerful beings. The scene of the 5 Sentinel regions working together finally broke the chains binding the demon soldiers, ending this calamity. He continued to count down. 3 evil clouds, haha, you really don't know what's good for you. As long as you merge your flesh and blood to refine your soul, then the demon Tai will be able to become a complete binding demon soldier. Tanvan continued to count down. 2, he raised the weapon high. Today you 4 will be lucky to become the sacrificial offerings for demon Tai. Suddenly a strange sound echoed. He stared intently at the item in his hand while Tavan was confused. What was that sound? Tanvan closed his eyes and sighed. It's time to work. He asked in confusion, what is that work? Suddenly a slash was unleashed, catching Tavan off guard. He was hit and spat blood, flying far away. His blood mass shattered into 2 pieces. Tanvan frowned and said, that means your day of death has come. In the mist covering the mountains and forests, Hoa Tanvan stood tall behind Nya Kim Tam with a look full of confusion and surprise. He did not answer her question. Was that sword energy just now from you? Everyone hurry and leave this place to me. Hoa Tanvan stood there calmly placing his hand on Nya Kim Tam's shoulder. The opponent stood there, eyes wide open looking at him. But Hoa, senior brother, you all quickly leave here. Set up the protective formation to safeguard the village, Nya Kim Van urged in a trembling voice. Senior brother Hoa, who was the elder that killed Bloodmass number 2 earlier, you should call him here. Just relying on us won't be enough to handle him. Hoa Tan Van was now focused on the back of Nakiem Van as the 2 girls also stepped forward in agreement. Now he has sacrificed himself. His strength is at least above the 8th level of the Spirit Bow realm. Even if we all combine our strength. That's right, Hua Daohu, don't push yourself anymore. In the worried eyes of the young girl, Hoa Tan Van still firmly assured, don't worry. He looked at Nyakem Tam's handsome face and deep expression in the mist, which made one feel moved. It will end quickly. Below, the hazy smoke was rising along with terrifying red objects hovering in the air. Tavan, the old ancestor, gasped, kneeling on the ground, his hand gripping the hilt of the dagger buried deep in the earth surrounded by energy rays. What was that white-purple lightning sword energy just now? He clearly is only at the spirit bow realm. Tavan, the old ancestor, trembled as he stood up, his legs unsteady on the ground full of urine. You little brat, what secret treasure did you use? Huathan Van stood high, coldly looking down. Do you still need to use secret treasures to deal with me? In another direction, Nyakiem Tam led 2 others quietly away. Tuvan walked behind, feeling worried about leaving Huathan Van alone to face the challenge ahead. Are we really leaving him behind? Does your senior brother Hoa really have a way to deal with Ma Qian? The one they were worried about, Huathan Van, was standing before the attack of that person, but he showed no signs of resistance as he faced a fiery red attack that burned through space. The attack went straight for Huathan Van, the pressure spreading everywhere. With his strength at the 6th level of the Spirit Bow realm, a single strike from him would mean death. Neha Kiem Tam flew in the air, her body twisting like a gust of wind. The surrounding space seemed to fall silent, leaving only the sound of the whistling wind and her hurried breathing. She didn't know why, but she trusted Hoa, senior brother. Fragments of memories about Huathan Van suddenly appeared in her mind. The image of a tall, dignified young man appeared. I have a type of elixir that can make both of you immune to the poisonous aroma for 3 watches. We have left some sword marks in the subconscious of both of you. Once the elder of the sect activates the bloodmass seed again, this sword energy will cut it off once more. The scene of memories vividly emerged in Nakiem Tam's mind. Since coming down from the mountain, every decision made by Hua, senior brother, has been correct, sister. Your social experience is still too little. You can't be unprepared like this. Saving people is like fighting fires. Doing it simultaneously is faster. At this moment, on the other side, Huathan Van curved both corners of his mouth upward. After the fierce attack from Tavan Huathan, Van appeared, his eyes red, like flames continuously burning. Tavan, the old ancestor, stood below, gritting his teeth, unable to believe his eyes when he saw Huathan Van still unmoved. What the hell is this kid? At this moment, on the other side, Nakiem Tam and Tuvan rushed like beams of blue-purple light, leaving behind faint streaks of light in the space as they landed. The ground trembled lightly beneath their feet, and the sound echoed everywhere. Her slender hand moved nimbly, and the faint energy wrapped around her fingertips. Nakiem Tam quickly unleashed her technique. The sword in her hand shot straight up into the sky like a lightning bolt. The light emitted was powerful and brilliant. In just a moment, the treasured artifact soared up as if propelled by an invisible force, gliding through the air, escaping from her hand, and then stopping in the vast space above. A shimmering layer of light enveloped the town, forming a solid formation as the treasure slowly ascended an ethereal glow surrounding it gradually spreading throughout the town. From a distance, Hua Van gently moved his eyes. A small but extremely important signal made his eyes light up. Hua Van crossed his arms, his expression incredibly relaxed. This time he could fight comfortably. Meanwhile, the elder Tavan gripped his weapon tightly, his white hair wild as he rushed towards Hua Van, laughing maniacally. Surely you don't think that what you saw earlier was all my power? Hua Van remained standing there, not in a hurry to strike, his demeanor calm. He stood firm, showing no intent to attack the atmosphere around him, as still as if to say, if you have any moves, just unleash them. Otherwise, you'll miss your chance. The provocation made the elder Tavan so furious that his face darkened. Streams of red and black energy coiled around his body, forming gigantic whirlpools of power right in front of Hua Van. It radiated immense strength, layers of energy enveloping the space. The blood slash technique made the air around them seem to shatter rocks, cracking, and everything was destroyed under that power. The elder Tavan laughed, his brows furrowing. His smile turned ferocious and ruthless, but as the mist gradually dissipated, an image left him stunned. Hua Van stood firm amidst the raging storm, as if nothing could harm him. Could it be that my power is being shaken? Hua Van raised his eyebrows. Is that all you have? This made the elder Tavan even more frenzied with extreme anger. He continuously swung his hands, unleashing fierce attacks, his face now looking savage, his eyes burning like flames. Filled with rage and hatred, the elder Tavan continued to channel his strength. The scene was now filled with terror as Hua Van stood there solid as a rock amidst the storm. The elder Tavan grew angrier and laughed. The demon light, heavenly destruction from afar, where the town was being protected by the treasure. But on the other side, the devastation caused by the elder Tavan created a chaotic and terrifying picture. The three people within the protective circle couldn't help but gasp in shock. Oh my, is this the power of a demon soldier? And what about the sword heart? The small face of the girl couldn't hide her anxiety as she clasped her hands together. Hua Su Huin. Meanwhile, outside, the elder Tavan was panting, his face contorted in anger. Surrounding him, the blazing red energy still radiated strongly, but that power was no longer what it used to be. The red fire in his eyes seemed to begin to fade. I told you, he said. The elder Tavan stood amidst the swirling red dragons. You can't just rely on good looks to cultivate skills. What good are beautiful skills if you can't hit? At this moment, Hua Van made a swift and precise movement. Each stream of emerald energy shot up gently but powerfully, like sharp rays piercing through the air. They headed straight for the powers that the elder Tavan had created. The elder Tavan was startled and couldn't react in time as the powerful blue energy completely suppressed his blazing red energy. Haha, am I dreaming? It felt as if the ground beneath him was collapsing. The elder Tavan broke out in a cold sweat, laughing. How can this be? It must be an illusion. Hua Van looked down from above and gently said, Are you wondering why a mere 6th level middle spirit cultivator like me can control you as easily as flipping my hand? It's simple because my eyes are sharp. I have sealed my own realm. The space around us seemed to freeze in silence and tension. Hua Van no longer hesitated. His hands waved and fierce energy radiated from his body. 10 self-demon slashes I have never dared to cultivate in front of others, fearing that a slight mistake would lead to disaster. He clenched his fists, the middle demon friction cannon, and being a disciple of the sect, showing off too much isn't a good thing either. His gaze was clear yet bright. They say the stronger the ability, the more troubles arise. Surrounding Hua Van was a powerful source of blue energy, intertwined with sharp energy rays. Continuing to strike, forcing the elder Tavan to turn and flee in a split second. To live comfortably, I need to hide my strength. Damn it. The elder Tavan ran while unleashing defensive techniques. You madman. Hua Van did not give the elder Tavan a chance to escape. Stop. Do you think I will let you go? The elder Tavan was roughly pulled back, his eyes filled with horror. At this moment, Hua Van tightened his grip. 5 times 7 disturbing my rest. The blue energy shone brightly as he raised his sword to his chest. You harmed my comrades, forcing me to act sooner. Behind him, Hua Van still stood in his original position, looking relaxed. The elder Tavan had fled, leaving a red streak tearing through space. You don't come over here. Hua Van's brows slightly furrowed. You cannot be forgiven. He immediately launched an attack straight at the elder Tavan, Tan Van Huyen's sword. In fear, the elder Tavan shouted, No. Soon after the sound ceased, his figure, unable to resist, fell down. The sunlight revealed that the battle had ended. Hua Van stood above, looking down at the scenery which had become clearer. His cold blue eyes remained indifferent, his long eyelashes slightly fluttering. Where he looked, the weapon of the elder Tavan was stuck there, amidst the towering mountains and the deep ocean, the violent waves crashing fiercely against the sharp rocky outcrop. Hua Van soared amidst countless gusts of wind. Where he looked at the weapon of the old master Tavan, stuck there amidst the vast mountains of Kao and the deep ocean, the fierce waves crashed violently against the sharp rock outcrop, and the flower Tan Van soared amidst countless gusts of wind. Below him is a voice filled with worry. This music master brother Hua has truly reached the spirit realm. Nyak Kim Tam, along with Fong Yi and Tuvan, is extremely confused by the scene before them. Tuvan is sweating profusely, her face tense to the extreme. The power of this strike can rival that of a cultivator in the Immortal realm. He truly isn't an elder of the Thanvan Sword Sect, is he? It's hard to believe that the Sword Sect is now on the verge of tears from fear. A bit of blood trickles from the corner of her mouth as she thinks to herself that Brother Hua's realm has already surpassed all disciples of the Thanvan Sword Sect. The more she thinks about it, the more Nakyamtam feels a sense of grievance that is hard to hide. Her cheeks involuntarily flush red. Compared to him, what does my title as the eldest disciple even mean? Suddenly, a force unexpectedly strikes, startling Nakyamtam. The three of them immediately dodge away from the violent spiritual energy that is chasing them to attack. The spiritual power in this battle is overwhelmingly strong. The spirit sealing formation is about to break. Nakyamtam faces Tuvan and Fengyi. Her small figure trembles all over, but she resolutely places her hand on her chest and says loudly, Vandahu Fongdahu, please go evacuate the villagers. I will stay here to hold on. Before she can finish her sentence, the source of spiritual energy has surrounded and tightly bound Nakyamtam, causing her immense pain. Fresh blood gradually flows from the corner of her mouth as she grits her teeth and endures. Continue to repair the cracks in the safety boundary. At least we can protect the villagers' lives. A sudden hand gently reaches out to help Nakyamtam patch things up. She's stunned when she turns her head. Nakyamtam realizes that Huatanvan is nearby. He also exerts more strength, successfully sealing the fragments of the boundary. Everyone below is equally anxious, all raising their heads to observe the entire process of the fall. Huatanvan gently smiles and says, all right. Withdraw the formation, he says, and Nakyamtam looks like a child waiting for her mother to come home. She joyfully exclaims, Brother Hua, as the scenery returns to its original calm state. The four of them quietly land on the ground, and the cultivators express their gratitude with folded hands, sincerely thanking the Immortal Master. While Tuvan and Fengyi are expressing their attitude of not needing to be polite behind Nakyamtam, she suddenly whispers to Huatanvan, Brother, her eyes sparkling with tears, and an expression of deep grievance as if she has endured many injustices for a long time. You are so strong. Why didn't you tell me earlier? She thought Huatanvan would explain in detail, but instead he just scratches his head awkwardly, his round eyes looking away, leaving Nakyamtam in disbelief. Sister, what are you talking about? He then calmly says, Thanks to the sword talisman from Master, I was able to defeat that elder demon lord. His words leave the three of them surprised, and they ask in unison, Nakyamtam wonders, wasn't that strike just now launched by Brother? Huatanvan regretfully purses his lips and sighs. He clenches his fist tightly and says, Of course not, I just reached the 6th layer of the spirit realm. How could I have that kind of strength? Huatanvan lowers his voice and adds, It was thanks to the three of you fighting desperately. I only had time to activate the sword talisman because of you three. The three of them stand there dumbfounded, watching him smile with squinted eyes, plus the fact that he had already exhausted a bit of his strength. That's why I was directly killed by the sword talisman, Huatanvan says fiercely, his eyes sparkling. I was just lucky to benefit from it. Nakyamtam rubs her chin, trying to recall the moment when the battle occurred. She carefully examines every small detail and suddenly realizes that something seems off, but you also managed to avoid all the attacks from the Elder Demon Lord. Nakyamtam crosses her arms in front of her chest, suspiciously glaring at Huatanvan, causing him to just smile awkwardly and scratch his head, admitting, Actually, I mainly practice teleportation techniques and body techniques. That's why it was easy to dodge. Huatanvan extends his hand toward Nakyamtam and kindly says, Sister, you know that Master encourages the path of the best teleportation technique in the sect. Nakyamtam is determined not to let him go. She anxiously asks, but what about the spirit sealing formation from earlier? To stabilize such a formation is not something a spirit realm cultivator can do. Huatanvan, out of options, takes out a sparkling jade treasure from his robe. Of course I use this. The three of them widen their eyes in astonishment. The spirit jade. The spirit jade. A thing that helps store spiritual power and can mobilize spiritual stones at any time. Therefore, it is very expensive and can only be used once, so few people use it. Nakyamtam cautiously looks at the jade in Huatanvan's hand, thinking to herself that Brother Hua speaks sincerely without any loopholes, but her intuition tells her that something is wrong. Thinking of this, Nakyamtam becomes restless and uneasy. She unconsciously touches the corner of her mouth stained with blood, but Huatanvan has understood all her actions from the very beginning. He gently sighs and tenderly pats Nakyamtam's head, using all his calming strength. Sister, don't think it too much. If I were really that powerful, the calming force of the junior sister should not think too much anymore if I really am that powerful. How could the master and the sect leader not notice? I am the top disciple of the Thanvan sword sect, and this is undeniable. Indeed, that head pat from Huatanvan made Nakyamtam feel an intense emotional explosion. Her face turned bright red, and her mind was spinning dazed by Huasuhun. She covered her face in embarrassment and shouted, You're doing it again! Tuvan suddenly interrupted the two, hesitantly asking, That's right, Huarauhu, the Shikluin Ma over there. An image of a spear filled with sinister energy appeared, surrounded by spiritual energy, firmly anchoring it to the ground. Huatanvan replied calmly, In that Tanma weapon, the demonic energy was writhing temporarily, unable to be touched. But I have set up a formation to suppress it. It must not be too late now. The four of them quickly reached the location of the weapon that had been sealed. Hoa Tan Van stood proudly in the sky, looking down, clasping his hands behind his back, and softly said, "The demonic sect is truly too arrogant." I didn't expect them to start refining the Shiklingma again. Nyakim Tam beside him also suggested, "We must quickly inform the sects about the demonic sect's plans so that the major sects can prepare early." Hoa Tan Van didn't think much and agreed. "Then I will take this Matai back to the sect first." Unexpectedly, when the two were about to approach closer, a thunderous explosion occurred, shattering everything around them in the forest. What? The leaves fluttered down after the huge explosion, and as they lightly touched the sharp spear, flames erupted from it, scorching it. Nyakiem Tam panicked and turned to Hoa Tan Van. "Not good, someone is pulling this Matai." The flames seemed to gain strength and began to swirl in a massive fire tornado. Hoa Tan Van wasted no words. He immediately used his technique to suppress the flames, but his spiritual energy was repelled back after passing through the fire, leaving a barren patch of land and the charred remains of the demonic spear, which had vanished without a trace. Tuvan anxiously said, "It's over. It seems a master from the demonic sect has intervened to pull this Matai away." Feng Yi also chimed in. "That makes sense. A Matai that took the elder half a lifetime to refine. How can we not leave a way out?" Nakiem Tam turned her back to Huatang. Van disappointed and said, "It's just that the three of us have exhausted our spiritual energy and cannot..." Huatang Van felt a bit frustrated, clenching his fist tightly. "Earlier, I held back my strength so that my junior sister wouldn't notice, so I couldn't catch that Matai." He seriously crossed his arms deep in thought. "With one elder plus my sealing formation, it should be able to prevent the Matai from being pulled away, right?" The scene shifted to the demon lair where Tavan Lauto was kneeling among the lit candles, the demonic energy half red and half black as if drawn to him like a magnet. They sequentially entered the mouth of Tavan Lauto, who sighed in satisfaction, his unfocused eyes looking up at the sky, recalling the confrontation with Huathan Van, thinking about the next time he would meet that disciple of the Thanvan sword sect, whose surname is Hoa. Thinking of this, Tavan Lauto furiously shouted, "I will definitely chop him into 100 pieces." Suddenly a shadow appeared behind him, catching him off guard. "Huh!" He saw a majestic, ghostly figure. With the source of red demonic energy, Tavan Lauto seemed programmed. He knelt and bowed in reverence, addressing the Great One. He faced the Demon King, terrified and not daring to utter a word. "It seems you have completed the physical body." The Demon King suddenly spoke. "If it weren't for the Great One's help in creating the physical body, I wouldn't have been able to refine it from scratch." Tavan Lauto, shocked, asked, "What?" The Demon King continued, "Before he died, he completed the Great Formation to condense the heavenly blood and create the Matai. When I summoned the Matai, external forces interfered, causing the Matai to fall." Tavan Lauto still bowed respectfully before the Demon King. He thought in this world the Great One is the strongest existence. Who could possibly take the Matai from the Great One? The Demon King waved his hand and 3 different treasures appeared in Tavan Lauto's hands. "Now the Matai has fallen to Tanvan Cho. You must quickly help me bring it back here. These 3 treasures I grant to you. They will assist you, but..." Before leaving, the Demon King did not forget to warn. "Last time you lost the Blood Essence Pearl. If you fail again this time, you know the consequences, right, Tavan?" The elder firmly replied, "Yes, I will complete the mission to bring the Matai back." After completing the mission, Tuvan and Feng Yi did not stay long and left immediately. Feng Yi waved goodbye to Huatan Van and Nyak Kim Tam. "Hoa Dao Hu, Nyak Dao Hu, may we meet again?" Nyak Kim Tam nodded slightly, smiling in response. "Be careful on your journey." The two of them, Tuvan and Feng Yi, traversed the towering mountains. Feng Yi lowered her voice, causing Tuvan to turn his head in surprise. "I didn't expect the Mavan sect to plot to recreate the demonic weapon, far surpassing our realm." His eyes became gloomy and his thoughts seemed to be filled with worry, focusing more on Hua Dao Hu. Tuvan furrowed his brow confused. "What's wrong with him?" "What's..." Feng Yi replied gently. "Vantai, don't you realize that this time everything is completely within Hua Dao Hu's control?" Feng Yi recalled every moment that had occurred when the two of them had taken a green pill. He began to piece together every small detail, recalling what Hua Dao Hu had instructed us after we left the inn and the matter of taking the detoxifying pill before entering the forest. A different scene emerged depicting a war filled with chaos. You began to try to piece together every little detail of what the flower friend instructed us after we left the inn and the matter of drinking the detoxifying elixir before entering the forest. A different scene emerged, that of a war full of chaos. The sorrow and thick dust shattered the stone statue of a person into countless pieces on the cold ground. Feng Yi said there were times when he fought and suddenly a bloodied head appeared, bringing him back to reality as he recalled what had just happened. It was Hua Tanvan who helped everyone escape from imminent danger. Finally, when Matai was fully formed, we were almost in despair, but Hua Dao Hu managed to step in and save us just in time. If any part of this had been missing, we would have been sacrificed to the Great Blood Refinement Formation. Tuvan realized that the pieces of the story, when put together, completely convinced her. She awkwardly put her hand on her chin, listening to her younger brother speak. "I see that it's true." Feng Yi didn't stop there. He continued, "Not only that, do you remember when we took the antidote pill? The image of half of Feng Yi standing still from deep within his heart, a surge of spiritual energy rolled violently into an endless vortex. At that moment, Feng Yi seemed to be reliving that feeling, sweat pouring down as he felt extreme tension. After drinking, I used the internal vision technique to check my body, and it seemed there was an invisible sword energy swirling within. Feng Yi suddenly exclaimed, I fear that what we drank is not an ordinary elixir, but rather a sword elixir infused with sword energy. The reason we weren't poisoned can only be one. It is the sword energy contained in that sword elixir that expelled all the toxins that invaded our bodies. Tuvan was stunned, unable to believe his eyes. How could this be? Feng Yi happily concluded that as long as one reached a high level in swordsmanship, this could be achieved. Tuvan scratched his head, feeling confused. Clearly, Hua Daohu was very formidable. Why must one go to such lengths to hide themselves? Feng Yi humorously teased, a big tree must withstand many storms. I think it's very likely that he is the secret weapon that Thanvan Sword Sect is secretly nurturing. Tuvan could only ask in confusion, should we inform the sect? The atmosphere froze for a few seconds as the two looked at each other in silence. Then Feng Yi unexpectedly spoke up. If Hua Daohu doesn't want to reveal his strength, we shouldn't make a fuss about it. After all, he is our lifesaver. Therefore, we need to respect his choice. Feng Yi was quite excited and enthusiastically said, having such a genius in Thanvan Sword Sect really makes one look forward to the upcoming Heavenly Heroes gathering next month. Out of nowhere, a pigeon flew in, bringing with it feathers that floated down to where Nakyam Tam was holding a communication device shaped like an oval jade with a Chinese character engraved on it. She politely replied to the person inside, yes, my senior brother and I will return to the sect immediately. Nakyam Tam turned to call Hua Thanvan. Sectmaster said we should hurry back to the sect. Hua Thanvan nodded slightly. I heard. He smiled mysteriously, implying praise in his words. The two siblings were intelligent. Nakyam Tam asked back, intelligent, what do you mean? Hua Thanvan feigned innocence, deliberately playing dumb. Nothing, let's go. The two flew swiftly across the rocky outcrops. Behind them, Hua Thanvan quietly retracted the spiritual energy, turning it into tiny shards of glass. He thought to himself, if that's the case, then the sword energy should disappear too. If the opponent's sect discovers it, it would be a big problem. Nakyam Tam suddenly spoke, Hua Zuhuin. Hua Thanvan calmly tilted his head. Nakyam Tam looked directly into his eyes and seriously asked, are you really not hiding your strength? Hua Thanvan chuckled, leisurely teasing her, why would I deceive you, junior sister? I'm just a clueless chicken at the 6th level of the spirit bow realm. I can't compare to a genius like you. Nakyam Tam did not respond. A few seconds later, she unexpectedly launched a direct attack towards Hua Thanvan with a powerful sword, blocking the space between them. Nakyam Tam resolutely held the sword hilt up. Her eyes were vigilant towards Hua Thanvan, which astonished him. The determination in her gaze deepened as Nakyam Tam aimed at her target and immediately used her sword technique to tear through Hua Thanvan's clothing. The speed was too fast for him to react. From the outer layer of that outfit, a mysterious pink notebook gradually revealed itself. Hua Thanvan's face suddenly turned pale as he saw it falling, and he was about to grab it. But Nakyam Tam was quicker, cutting off his action. She quickly seized the notebook, feeling pleased to have found the secret to his strength. However, when she opened it, what met her eyes was an image of a beautiful woman winking seductively, wearing overly revealing clothing. From top to bottom, she was dyed green, surrounded by bright red roses, adding in a few sweet hearts on the paper with the words, the path to immortality cannot be overlooked by me and my junior sister. Nakyam Tam fell into a state of panic, her whole body burning with embarrassment, her eyes spinning like a top, not knowing what to do. Hua Thanvan hurriedly snatched the notebook back, flustered, trying to explain to her. Junior sister, listen to my explanation. This is a very sought-after mundane book. It's called a romantic novel. In Nakyam Tam's heart, the moment shattered into pieces. She felt a bit disappointed, her eyes glistening with fear. Senior brother, I didn't expect you to be Hua Thanvan. He quickly flipped through a few pages of the book to prove to Nakyam Tam, feeling embarrassed as he said, the cover illustration is just to attract people. In reality, it tells the stories of straightforward adventures. But unexpectedly, Hua Thanvan stopped at the page with the beautiful woman's picture. And this time she was even bolder, sitting elegantly on the chair, using her seductive gaze to sway and look around. He was startled and exclaimed, it's not what you think. The swordsman, feeling panicked, was about to run away. With a face flushed bright red, she stammered, Senor brother Hua Thanvan, I have no choice but to chase after you to explain the misunderstanding. This is called an illustration, which is also meant to attract readers. He nervously continued, this book is about a main character in the sect who has many adventures with his junior sister. It's a straightforward adventure story that is highly sought after by mortals and cultivators. Every 3 months, a new edition is released. Hua Thanvan confidently smiled, her eyes sparkling with unusual allure, especially for limited editions with illustrations like this. You need to line up overnight to get them. They're very rare. The swordsman realized he had misunderstood and hurriedly said, so that's it. I'm sorry, senior brother, I will compensate for your clothes. She thought to herself, feeling guilty. The sword strike earlier, Hua Suhuin did not dodge at all, and his clothes were completely torn. Could it be that you really don't hide your strength? The swordsman gently reminded Hua Suhuin, although you seem fine, you should stop reading books like this. This thing called a novel is banned in Tanwan Kimtong, she said worriedly, according to what the sect leader said. This is called indulging in leisure. Your talent is not bad, so you should work hard to cultivate. Hua Tanwan unexpectedly complied without arguing, saying, Yes, 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 junior sister, you're right. The swordsman turned around. All right, senior brother, let's continue on our way, Hua Tanwan replied awkwardly. I will be there soon. He breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that after the earlier probing junior sister would no longer suspect him. Unexpectedly, before he could move, suddenly a strong stream of spiritual energy rushed towards the book he was holding. Hua Tanwan, without thinking much, immediately unleashed a move to block the source of that spiritual energy. He used force to fling it away, and a loud explosion occurred in the sky, witnessed by both of them. Hua Tanwan's hands trembled, frozen before the large rock that he had shattered in an instant. He knew for sure that he had fallen into the trap of the swordsman, and nervously said, Junior sister, could you pretend not to see? The swordsman calmly assessed the situation. Even with a sevenfold mortal realm, I wouldn't dare to use my hands to block it, let alone a strike that could knock Hua Tanwan away. She secretly put the book back into her robe. Feeling helpless, he scratched his head and admitted, All right, I admit that I have concealed a little bit of my cultivation. The swordsman rushed over to Hua Tanwan, excitedly asking, Senior brother, tell me the truth, is your swordsmanship stronger than mine? He awkwardly replied, I guess I'm a bit stronger. Nakyam Tam smiled mischievously. That's great. Then if I keep this secret for you, can you promise me something? Hua Tanwan felt a bit uneasy, but still indulgently asked, Junior sister, what is it? As if her needs were met, Nakyam Tam's eyes sparkled as she clasped her hands together in earnest pleading. Teach me your sword techniques, please. Hua Tanwan's face showed a difficult smile. He stroked his chin, pondering. He originally thought that after completing this mission, he could rely on Junior Sister and take a light 3-day break. The swordsman was still like a little puppy, cheerful and bright. What do you think, senior brother? Hua Tanwan thought helplessly. But why do I feel like I'm at a heavy loss now? With no other choice, he coughed lightly and reluctantly agreed. If you want to learn, then fine. But the swordsman quickly interrupted, full of enthusiasm, and spoke loudly. Senior brother, don't worry. I will definitely keep it a secret. After achieving her wish, Nakyam Tam happily soared into the sky, mischievously winking at Hua Tanwan. Senior brother. Then let's go home now, despite him being troubled and speechless. Sect leader, look at the good thing you've done. I'm in trouble now. Returning to Tanwan Kimtong, the two walked rhythmically through the main hall, in a space enveloped in simplicity and tranquility. A gentle breeze blew by, carrying green leaves fluttering. Hua Tanwan crossed his arms in front of his chest. His expression was not very good. He remained completely silent. The swordsman respectfully saluted before the sect leader, the roadmaster, and the elders. Everyone in the sect was astonished and turned their heads. An elder spoke up. Kim Tam, you have made a great contribution again. He slowly walked to the swordsman's side, concerned. You've worked hard, Kim Tam. Are you hurt anywhere? Hua Tanwan. On the contrary, she seems a bit uncomfortable and wants to avoid the people here. He just glanced elsewhere, coldly performing the ritual to pay respects to the sect leader, the elders, and the roadmaster. Indeed, as soon as he finished speaking, he was met with burning faces as the elders scolded him without stopping Hua Tanwan. This time, don't cause any trouble for the junior disciple Naksu. If Kiem Tam gets hurt while protecting you, then you'll know that as a true disciple, this time you must learn the diligent spirit of Kiem Tam from the senior disciple. Hua Tanwan suppressed the frustration in her heart, thinking more and feeling increasingly wronged. You guys are being too biased. If it weren't for me this time, your senior disciple would have been refined by someone already. On Kim stood up suddenly angrily, saying, All right, stop talking for a moment. If it weren't for Tanwan activating the sword talisman in time, it would have been difficult to kill the elder of the demon sect this time. Hua Tanwan stood with her arms crossed leisurely, watching those who had just scolded her, now being intimidated by the roadmaster, not daring to say a word. She smugly thought to herself, the sect leader is worth every tea gift I gave him. One of them attempted to refute, saying that the sword talisman was given by the roadmaster, and he merely activated it. Another person agreed, saying, That's right. This time, it was the roadmaster who had the greatest contribution. With his long grey hair and eagle-like green eyes, he coldly stated, If he is my disciple, it is only natural to give him a sword talisman for protection. The two others did not dare to argue back and awkwardly praised, Who would have thought that the swordsmanship of the roadmaster has become even stronger? Exactly. Just with the power of the sword talisman, it could eliminate a demon elder like the one holding the demon tie. The roadmaster thought to himself, I clearly remember that the sword talisman I gave to Tanwan at that time only had the power of the first layer of the talisman realm. It is rumored that the elder of the demon sect Makian is at the 5th layer of the talisman realm and holds the demon tie. Could it be that I gave the wrong sword talisman at that time? Hua Tanwan, seeing the roadmaster lost in thought, quickly hid behind the crowd. He tried to hide his sweaty face from the tension. Onkiem at this moment boldly declared to everyone, The reason for gathering everyone here this time is because the Blood Soul Pearl and the Demon Tie have appeared one after another. The spirit realm is about to face danger. He spoke calmly. Kiem Tam told the details about what happened after encountering the elder of the demon sect, for the elders here to hear. This information is extremely important for the sect and the alliance. Kim Tam firmly replied, yes. From the beautiful sunset to the dark night, the meeting among the elders in the sect finally concluded. Hua Tanvan, tired, stretched, and walked out. Finally, it was over. He happily thought to himself, it's like a flag in my belly. Tomorrow when I wake up, I will be free. I need to plan for 3 days of vacation properly. A sweet voice echoed, shattering all of Hua Tanvan's dreams. Senior brother Nak Kiem Tam excitedly laughed and said, we made a pact before. You will teach me swordsmanship. Hua Tanvan pretended not to know. Huh. He froze quickly, waving his hands to refuse. I have something to do these 2 days. Let's do it another time. But Nak Kiem Tam was determined not to let go. With a powerful person like senior brother, this is just a little guidance. I can't wait any longer. Hua Tanvan feigned exhaustion. Junior sister, this time we went out and we are all exhausted. You have to let me rest to have the strength to teach you. Nak Kiem Tam, hearing this, began to tear up, pitifully whining. Senior brother, I stayed at the inn all night while you fought hard. I didn't complain about being tired. Why are you complaining? Hua Tanvan irritably replied. What is this? I am the one who worked the hardest. Nak Kiem Tam, with a dark face, suddenly grabbed Hua Tanvan's collar and fiercely threatened. If you don't teach me, I will tell everyone about our relationship. Hua Tanvan frantically looked around to see if anyone was nearby. He quietly reminded, oh my, we are at the main hall. Don't say anything foolish. What relationship do we have? Nak Kiem Tam, still tightly held, his shirt sobbing in pain. I don't care, you broke your promise, you are a fraud. Hua Tanvan, not wanting to see her throw a tantrum anymore, had to compromise. All right. Come to my place tonight, I will teach you once. He pressed a finger lightly on Nak Kiem Tam's head, keeping a certain distance, helplessly saying, wait until you comprehend it. Then you are not allowed to disturb me anymore? She happily nodded obediently. Hua Tanvan sighed, not forgetting to remind Nak Kiem Tam to be careful of prying eyes. Then you must not disturb me anymore. She happily nodded obediently. Flower. Tanvan sighed, not forgetting to remind Nak Kiem Tam to be careful and avoid prying eyes. If others see you coming to our house, then tomorrow I will be torn apart by the brothers and elders and hung from the ceiling, she exclaimed excitedly. So we won't meet or go back, okay? That night, a solitary figure sat at the tea table. In the vast courtyard of the four-sided house, surrounded by endless mountains and forests, shrouded in thick mist, as promised, the Sword-Heart house landed right before Hua Tanvan, whose face looked unusually gloomy. You don't seem very happy, he said coldly. Has the junior sister arrived? The Sword-Heart house innocently asked why the senior brother was so serious. She shyly thought, could it be that he is so concerned about teaching me sword techniques? Hua Tanvan mysteriously spoke. Just now I learned something very important. The Sword-Heart house, curious, asked what it was. Hua Tanvan, filled with serious grievances, replied, the day after tomorrow is the release of the new edition I have to cultivate. He paced back and forth, anxiously disappointed to the point of talking to himself. It's all that demon sect's fault for destroying the Thanhu ruins. Now the release location has been moved all the way to Vantam City, far away. To buy the limited edition with illustrations, I might have to line up all night. This made the Sword-Heart house go mad. She angrily judged, what a stressful situation. So it turns out you were worried about this. Hua Tanvan coughed lightly and straightforwardly said, so tomorrow I must set off to Vantam City. Therefore, I will only demonstrate the sword techniques for you once. The Sword-Heart house quickly adjusted her demeanor. Yes, senior brother. Hua Tanvan extended his hand casually and said, all right then, give it your all and attack me. The Sword-Heart house, a bit confused, hesitated and stepped back. If you use all your strength, the house of your brother. Hua Tanvan executed a challenging move. Go ahead. You still don't have the ability to destroy my house. The Sword-Heart house empowered smirked mischievously and drew her sword imbued with spiritual energy. Her eyes filled with cunning aimed directly at her target, Hua Tanvan. Be careful, senior brother. Hua Tanvan raised his sword and instantly the spiritual energy within it erupted fiercely, like sharp claws ready to pounce on the prey in front of him. As she approached him with her ninth move, he quickly raised his hand to counter with a swift technique. Good sword. His finger lightly touched it, stopping all the spiritual energy and sending it flying away. The Sword-Heart house was stunned speechless, standing still as she watched him remain unharmed instead, controlling her ninth move. He directed it upward into the sky, the spiritual energy soaring amidst the bright full moon, creating a whirlwind in the astonishment of the Sword-Heart house. Hua Tanvan calmly turned his head, watching the spiritual energy gradually transform into mist. Then it dissipated into the air. The Sword-Heart house gasped, not expecting that her entire attack just now had turned into a wisp of smoke surrounding her. She knelt down, trembling, surrendering before Hua Tanvan. You lost, he gently comforted her. Junior sister, nothing in this world is perfect. Even the most beautiful sword techniques are the same. Finally, Hua Tanvan patiently explained to her the reason for her defeat. I merely found a flaw in your sword technique and used spiritual power to destroy it. His serious gaze looked straight at her, warmly encouraging her spirit. As long as you continue to improve your sword techniques and cultivate to the highest level under the night sky with countless stars and the bright moon. Hua Tanvan smiled gently. By then, Even if you are just a blade of grass, you will still be able to touch the moon and stars. The sword-hard house was taken aback. She gritted her teeth, seemingly a bit unconvinced. I joined the Thanvan sword sect for over 25 days, diligently practicing sword techniques and comprehending the sword path. Although I have become the top disciple, I am disappointed, she thought. But to reach a realm where a blade of grass can cut through the moon and stars, I think that's still too far-fetched. Hua Thanvan suddenly stomped his foot on the ground, gently calling her, "Look closely, junior sister." He tossed a stone high into the air and in an instant used several moves to strike it violently. The result was that from an ordinary stone, it became a stone containing spiritual power. He raised it for the sword-hard house to see. You should carefully comprehend the sword mark on this stone. It is enough to elevate your sword path to a new level. Saying that, Hua Thanvan tossed the stone so it flew towards the sword-hard house, who was sitting sprawled on the ground. Her hands trembled as she caught it, discovering a clear Chinese character engraved on it. Hua Thanvan secretly winked and instructed, "Remember this well. Absolutely do not let outsiders see this stone." The sword-hard house hugged the stone to her chest, happily responding yes, before Hua Thanvan could say anything more. She soared into the sky, laughing joyfully, thanking her senior brother for his guidance. "Now I will return to comprehend it immediately." In an instant, she vanished, sparkling like a distant star. Hua Thanvan helplessly scratched his head, pondering deeply. "Want to cultivate all night," he sighed, worried. "Junior sister working so hard. Be careful of your health." In the early morning, the peaceful scene of Hua Thanvan's courtyard was hidden behind a layer of mist, immersed in the lush green forest. The towering ancient trees covered a vast open area, followed by the majestic mountains rising high, blocking the blue sky and white clouds. Thanvan gently touched the black ink words written on the paper, excitedly expressing his thoughts. As he set off towards Vantam City, suddenly there was a strange noise. He turned around, his face filled with confusion. A streak of light resembling a shooting star darted across the vast sky. Thanvan was somewhat surprised to realize that the person was actually his master. He thought to himself, does master want to go out today as well? The leader of the sect flew swiftly like an arrow, but his face suddenly darkened as he sensed a dangerous threat behind him, chasing after him. The leader abruptly stopped and calmly faced the mysterious pursuer. "Fellow Taoist, have you been following me for so long without getting tired?" The demon, entirely red and fiery, revealed his malevolent nature. He couldn't help but laugh loudly in disdain, curious if the speed of the sect leader was truly as fast as the rumors claimed. The demonic aura completely vanished, revealing his scarred face. He did not hold back in mocking, but it seemed that was all he had. The sect leader squinted, thinking to himself, the master of the Demon Van sect is quite arrogant. He arrogantly clasped his hands behind his back and pretended to inquire, "How did you know I would appear here?" The arrogant one replied half-jokingly, "Who knows? Perhaps someone told me." The sect leader was highly suspicious and asked directly, "So there are spies within the Thanvan sword sect. What are you demon cultivators plotting?" The arrogant one provocatively challenged, seemingly intending to irritate the elder of the Thanvan sect. "Our goals have never changed, so why prolong this?" In his eyes was a hidden malice. "Since you discovered me, you have been secretly accumulating your sword formation. I see you must have gathered quite a bit by now, right?" The sect leader quickly drew his sword, ready to unleash his techniques. It seems the arrogant sect master is quite confident. He floated in mid-air, beginning to perform his sword techniques, creating circles of spiritual energy. However, this confidence will lead you into the depths of death. The arrogant one stood tall, calmly waiting for the spiritual energy that was about to strike him. He did not back down, raising his hand to counterattack. If that day truly comes, I will naturally be willing to accept it. Only that day is not today. He used his fist to absorb the accumulated demonic energy, roaring to see if the sword formation you have gathered for half a day can withstand one punch from me. In the beautiful dreamlike Vantam City at the foot of the mountain, Thanvan finally arrived after a long journey. He happily breathed a sigh of relief, finally reaching Vantam City. Let me see where the novel release is. Suddenly Thanvan felt a chill down his spine. He realized something. It seemed to be an ominous sign. Indeed, it was related to his master. The jade pendant in the sect leader's hand had cracked, meaning he was in danger. He pondered, has the sword energy in the jade pendant of my master been activated? Thanvan gasped, feeling anxious and restless. His master was at the first level of the Immortal realm and was skilled in earth-shifting techniques. How could he be in danger? This is not good. It seems the opponent is at least a master at the fourth level of the Immortal realm. The scene shifted to the battle between the arrogant one and the sect leader. Now only ashes remained with debris falling to the ground and a powerful demonic energy. It completely overwhelmed the spiritual energy in the air. The arrogant one grasped the sect leader by the neck. Victory was in his hands. The sect leader, injured and bleeding, lay motionless in the grasp of the arrogant one. With no strength left to move, the arrogant one tightened his grip and smugly said, "Is this your protective talisman?" He glanced at the shattered green jade pendant in his hand, openly disdainful. Who would have thought the protective sword energy inside could take a punch from me? The sect leader, using his last bit of consciousness, gasped and thought that jade pendant was given to me by Thanvan. The past scene resurfaced when the sect leader received the jade pendant from Thanvan. he had curiously asked him. At that moment, he had replied leisurely, thanking you for your daily care. Before leaving, Thanvan turned back and smiled knowingly at him, as if he had predicted everything that was about to happen. This is a token of my sincerity. Back in reality, the arrogant one was channeling all his demonic energy once more, intending to finish off the sect leader. He knew he would surely win, and arrogantly said, however, I won't miss this time. Go die, meanwhile. Thanvan placed 2 fingers on his chest where a Chinese character was engraved, releasing just enough power. He took a deep breath, furrowing his brows, concentrating all his spiritual energy to locate his master. The position of the jade pendant was clear in the bright sky. Thanvan stood tall, radiating a powerful spiritual energy all around. In just a few fleeting seconds, he quickly found the position of the arrogant one. Without much thought, Thanvan immediately performed the Thanvan sword technique, unleashing a fierce wave of spiritual energy from above. It crashed directly down where Hangba was standing. He couldn't form a coherent thought and exclaimed in astonishment what a destructive force the technique created by Flower Thanvan as it shook the earth and caused seismic tremors, causing Hangba, who was previously unscathed, to turn into a wounded demon, barely able to stand. He painfully clutched his arm, coughing violently, struggling to speak. Is this sword technique really from Onkiem, the master of Thanvan sword sect? He spread his hand in anger, looking at the tattered talisman with a few curved lines drawn on it, while the old master had disappeared without him noticing. Hangba's bloodshot eyes bulged as he gritted his teeth, tasting the bitter fruit of defeat. Next time we meet, I will definitely kill you. Thanvan used divine power to create a tremendous force, piercing deep into the ground, muttering to himself, I hit it this time. But it hasn't been resolved yet. Pulling back his hand cautiously, he thought the enemy's strength might be above the 4th layer of the celestial realm, wondering why the master of the supreme demon sect wanted to kill the master. After that, he dashed away. Fortunately, the master had successfully escaped, and in his mind, he was still lost in thought, descending into a market, waiting to see how the master was doing after returning to the sect. The hustle and bustle below attracted Thanvan's attention. He saw many people standing in long lines, and he was confused. Not this many people, right? This place is selling books. The seller called out for the next person, and the buyers who received the books cheered joyfully. Great, I got it. Thanvan also queued up to buy in the crowded throng, feeling desperate. How long do we have to wait until the year of the dragon floods? Although the line of people waiting to buy showed no signs of diminishing, the bookseller announced that this was the last book. This caused everyone to stir. What, it's all gone. Some people cried and lamented, I have been waiting in line all afternoon. Another person sighed, let's go, let's go. Thanvan was the lucky one who bought the last book. He felt satisfied in front of those who were regretfully sighing behind him, just as he reached out to grab the book. He thought, great, my luck isn't bad. Suddenly another hand bumped into the book before him. He was surprised, huh? That person was a beautiful girl named Nguyet Quyen Vu. Both of them placed their hands on the book, exuding a fierce aura. Quyen Vu put on a lovely and gentle demeanor to persuade Thanvan. Dear handsome friend, could you let me have this last book? But he was not swayed. On the contrary, he firmly replied no. Then she quickly turned to the seller and asked, can I pay double? This put him in a difficult position. Then she changed her tone, being competitive, said, Dreamon, I don't like this little money. Both of them insisted loudly to the seller. I will take the book. The seller was sweating. He advised the two not to let things escalate while they were both very heated looking at each other. The two friends should talk slowly. Don't resort to violence. He continued to suggest another solution. There really is only one book left. Why don't you two discuss it? This statement caught Quyen Vu's attention. She thought of something, propping her hands on the table, excitedly suggesting, if you won't yield, then let's use a fair method to decide the winner. He immediately replied, oh, may I ask what method you want to use? She threw out some spirit stones shaped like rock, paper, scissors, clearly stating, let's play rock, paper, scissors. Thanvan asked, can we just use divine sense to guess? Do we really need to play? She explained, this is a special spirit stone I crafted from the divine mechanism sect, effective in blocking divine sense. It can only be seen with the eyes. Then she proposed that we use this spirit stone to play rock, paper, scissors. This way, it will be absolutely fair. To verify her words, he used divine sense but couldn't see anything. In his heart, without a doubt indeed, divine sense couldn't be used to guess. He took the small stones, thinking it seemed fine. He said, let's start. She said the rules, best 2 out of 3. He also agreed, thinking for the first time, let's try my luck with rock. Quyen Vu counted 3, 2, 1, and they flipped their stones down. She happily asked for help, while Thanvan looked a bit unsure, inviting the two friends to help them flip the stones. They both agreed, okay, when they flipped the stones up. His stone was scissors, while hers was rock, creating 2 contrasting expressions. She joyfully jumped up. It seems I won the first round. I still have some doubts, but it's not significant. The gem has never been touched by anyone because I was careless. I suggested placing the block on the table again, and then took my turn to flip it, resulting in Quyen Vu still being the winner. It left him feeling disappointed and speechless. She picked up the book, laughing and mocking. Hey, it seems I've won again. Good luck. At this moment, Thanvan couldn't believe she had lost, staggering and unable to stand firm. The two booksellers, seeing his condition, worriedly asked, are you all right, fellow cultivator? Do you need us to help you contact your sect to take you back? That's right. Huin, don't collapse. Here, we need to pack up and head back. As for her, she cheerfully waved goodbye. My friend feeling a bit disappointed for missing out on his favorite novel, we have already checked all the necessary spots. There isn't a single gap, and it took a lot of effort. The limited edition novel was snatched away by someone else, yet he still wandered down the road with optimism, deciding to take a little stroll. The tea in the manor is about to be ready. I need to prepare some more tea leaves for the new master. The sky has darkened and Thanvan walked dejectedly on the rooftops. I've bought enough tea already. There's nothing to do here, so I might as well head home. Suddenly, there was the sound of an argument. It must be her cheating, which certainly caught his attention. Huh? The argument continued. Cheating. Didn't you all check it already? Thanvan stood on a nearby rooftop, looking down at two men and a woman. The man shouted, "Explain yourself! She wins every time." The woman, equally sharp-tongued, replied, "Am I lucky?" The other one retorted, "You won against us 20 times. It can't just be luck." It turns out she was not a stranger, but Nguyet Queen Vu arguing her case. This is called karma. As for the two of you, you must be ordinary, doing many bad deeds, so heaven has sent down punishment. The two young men, Bachnyan and Makvan, were furious. Heaven doesn't do such nonsense. She continued to deny it. "Two fellow Taoists, please. Before we played rock, paper, scissors, we clearly stated that we must follow the rules." Suddenly, Kinvu turned and ran away. "Well, the years are long. See you again." Surprising the two, Makvan used his power to create fiery whirlwinds. "Stop, you can't leave." They linked together to form a hand to catch Kinvu. She suddenly noticed something and called out loudly, "Brother." This startled the two brothers. Thanvan was slowly descending to the ground. Queen Vu, calling for help, said, "Brother, please help me." Bachnan asked, "Who are you?" Despite his fierce expression and overwhelming aura, she still tried to act. "Brother, they want to do something terrible to me." "Don't talk nonsense. We Thanmin never did anything wrong to you." But right after that, she asked, "Are you her Taoist sister? Or is he my senior brother? I warn you if you want to help her." Before they could finish, he firmly declined. "Two fellow Taoists, it's just a coincidence." "You two continue. I absolutely will not disturb." Kinvu, worried, was sweating profusely, pretending to be innocent. "Brother, you really are careless. Have you forgotten our chance encounter?" The more she spoke, the angrier he became. "It was just rock, paper, scissors, and I lost to you." By now, the two brothers realized that, aside from them, she had played tricks on many others. "Today I must teach you a lesson. Return everything you have cheated us out of." Kinvu continued to plead, "Brother, please help me." He stood behind, amused. "Please, two fellow Taoists, be a bit rough. I also want to get back my novel." Seeing the situation was not good, she said, "If you don't help me." Then she raised the book to threaten him. "Now I will tear this book." This threat made him anxious. The two were still very angry and decided to use strong measures. "Don't blame me for being rude." They created a giant clawed hand to attack Kinvu, but unexpectedly, another force broke it apart. He stood by Kinvu to protect her, while Makvan was puzzled. What my magic was broken in an instant. Bachnan, getting angry, questioned him. "Didn't you say you wouldn't intervene?" He was also helpless, so he hesitated to save her, saying, "Sorry, things have changed. I asked the two fellow Taoists to let me save her." After saving her, he turned back gruffly, saying, "Give me my book." But she played him, "Thank you." The naive one realized he had been set up. He quickly grabbed her, but she turned into gas. "What?" He couldn't touch her. The green mist floated away, and he was furious, laughing maniacally. Then, without hesitation, he sped off to chase her. Although he had left, his hidden weapon hadn't fully dissipated. The two brothers were stunned, thinking, which sect does this cultivator belong to? The green aura flew away, and he burst into laughter. "Ha ha ha ha." Then, without hesitation, he sped off to chase after her. Although she had left, his hidden weapon had not completely dissipated. The two brothers were stunned, wondering which sect this cultivator belonged to. The terrifying flow of energy made them realize, after a moment of confusion, that their treasure was still in the hands of that woman. Immediately, they began to pursue, chasing after the green energy that had flown to a forest nearby. Huinvo had returned to normal. She was smug, saying, "Hehe, thanks to my daily practice of earth-shifting techniques, I'm not bad." While she was praising herself, a strong gust of wind appeared, catching her off guard. It was Tanvan, who had swiftly caught up and was now standing in front of her. "May I ask, do you dare to deceive me?" She was startled and screamed, but he sealed her spiritual power with a touch. She angrily shouted, "You sealed my spiritual power." He raised his hands, lifted Queen Vu, and angrily demanded to clarify everything. "Humph, you've got some nerve." "Which sect do you belong to?" she stammered. "Let me go." He smiled wickedly to scare her. "Follow me to meet the city lord of Vantam City. You dared to trick others based on the sect's cultivator's power when sealing your spiritual energy. You will have to clean the pigsty for 7 days." Just hearing this made her turn pale with fear. She struggled and shouted, "You dare!" Makvan and Bachnyan, who had chased after her, were at a loss for what to do, standing silently. The two of them were still arguing, neither willing to back down. Tanvan said, "If you want me to spare her, then hand over the book." You don't know how to cherish beauty," Queen Vu angrily retorted. "From now on, I will definitely remain single for life." Then she took a book from her person and handed it to him, setting the condition that he must break her spiritual seal for her to get what she wanted. He immediately released her and tossed the spirit stone into her hands, saying, "Take this spirit stone as if I bought it from you." She was unwilling and huffed. Then he seriously asked, I'm really curious, how did you cheat during the rock, paper, scissors? Quinvu, hearing this, became furious. I didn't cheat. She continued, but then fell silent, drawing everyone's attention. I just used a little magic, she finally replied. The two were interrupted, rebutting, this is clearly cheating. Tanvan continued to ask, oh, what kind of magic? She took out a hammer-shaped object, but when her finger touched it, it transformed into a pool. Van, standing at a distance, praised. This magic is incredible. It doesn't reveal any spiritual energy. Baknyan understood, no wonder we lost. She has this magic. She can transform our cards at any time. Tanvan still had many questions in his heart. When we competed the second time, I revealed your jade first. How could you still win against me? If I reveal my card, you can't change it for me, right? She casually lifted the object to her mouth. It's just a slight change in perception. As long as you see the result that you lost, every image you see will change. Everyone was stunned. Changing perception is the most profound tactic in magic. This ability also involves the law of causality. It's the power of conceptual thinking. Baknan guessed. Quinvu had an unusual identity. Who exactly was she? She proudly introduced herself. I am from the Huan Tam Heavenly Palace. Seeing Magvan's unusual expression, he asked, what kind of force is the Huan Tam Heavenly Palace? Magvan replied, it's an ancient sect famous for its magic living separately from the world. Although they don't join the alliance, their strength shouldn't be underestimated. Then both clasped their hands in greeting. I am a disciple of the Vantam sect. This is my junior brother Bachnan. Miss Nguyen, I didn't expect you to be a disciple of the Huatik Tam Heavenly Palace. I didn't expect they would let you keep everything you took from them. This made her doubt the treasures she had taken earlier. Junior brothers, we won't ask for them back. Taking this opportunity, Magvan expressed his intention to recruit Queen Vu. Can I invite you to join us in the Tamsun Mountain to search for the secret treasure? If we encounter danger, your magic will be very useful. Tanvan seemed to pay attention to what he said, while she appeared excited about the secret treasure. Without hesitation, she quickly agreed. A few days ago, a red light fell in the depths of the Vanta mountain with abundant spiritual energy. It's very likely that a rare secret treasure has appeared. Tanvan, overhearing the conversation, glanced at them. They were still eagerly discussing. The Vanta mountain is very winding, but we know its general location. Why don't we join forces to find it? If there are many secret treasures, we will share them equally. If there is only one, whoever gets there first will take it okay. Tangvan recalled his previous doubts about the red light, but quickly dismissed that thought. It can't be those two Thai ghosts, right? He put his hand to his forehead. I must be overthinking it. They had finished exchanging ideas, and Quyen Vu agreed. I went along with two people wearing patterns, feeling very happy. Then he also asked about his friend, but he just coldly replied, Huatan Van, and he inquired how Huadahu felt about it. That secret treasure is quite powerful. It's a rare artifact. He waved his hand to refuse and walked away, thinking to himself that it wasn't easy to finally get a break from exploring the deep forest. What a strange thing. Instead, he could spend that time in the city for a night reading the new book by Moitu. Then he decisively said goodbye and vanished. The others hadn't even finished their sentence. Queen Vu noticed his indifferent attitude. He looked visibly displeased, losing interest. Don't worry, he will definitely come back to find us. In a place where the trees were burned and the land was dry and barren, a man appeared there, seeing a spear on fire stuck in the ground. He laughed maniacally, found it, and a strange smile appeared on his face, saying, Matai, a fierce beast full of resentment, roared aggressively. It charged at Queen Vu at high speed to pounce on her. She neither ran away nor defended herself, but stood still. Just as the beast lunged at her, she used her magic to transform into a stream of air and disappeared, causing the beast to miss and stop abruptly. She jumped up, returning to normal, signaling that it was now time to attack. Magvan immediately unleashed her technique to strike. The beast, caught off guard, turned its head to look back, but it was too late. Instantly, Baknyan used Vulak to attack fiercely. The beast couldn't resist and was defeated. Baknyan praised Queen Vu. Miss Nguyet, your magical skills tan Tongkanhua Tui Nguyet are truly powerful. Magvan also added, That's right. If we fought this beast directly, it would surely take us half a day. She smugly twisted her hair. That's only natural. After that, they continued on their journey to search for the secret treasure. Let's continue our departure. After a while, Queen Vu, walking behind the two, felt something was off. She said, We've been in Vanta Mountain for over an hour and a half. Are you sure that treasure is really here? Magvan is sure. Don't worry, according to my memory, it's just a few miles away. They arrived at the place where the red mist fell, and around it appeared dark energies, like resentment, seemingly absorbing something. There was a sound of a man laughing savagely. Absorb it, absorb it. That voice belonged to Tavan Lauto, who was scheming. At this speed, in a few hours, we can bring Matai out, he said, sitting in front of the red mist to help it absorb. He mentioned someone. That great person will definitely be very happy. Suddenly he sensed a fluctuation of spiritual energy. He anxiously turned his head to observe. Is someone coming? Using his eyes? Tavan Lauto activated his vision and saw Huinvu, the two disciples of Vantam sect, and a female cultivator. He stood up, thinking of ways to hide the red mist. If they discover Matai and inform Vantam City, it will be a huge problem. Among the three of them, the highest cultivation level only reached the third level of Trung Tu Fukan. While thinking, he took something out from his person, but as a disciple of the sect, he must have some treasures on him. Summoning the blood mass might be tricky. Tavan Lauto took out a silver bell with iron chains that emitted a heavy aura. He smiled sinisterly. Fortunately, the old ancestor prepared thoroughly. Then he raised both hands to the sky, summoning someone, causing the ground around to tremble. Come out, you brat! The thing was surrounded by dark whirlpools, moving at high speed, making it hard to see clearly. He commanded, Old ancestor, you must stay here to guard Matai. As he spoke, Tavan Lauto shook the bell in his hand, capturing those sect cultivators. The thing has 2 bright eyes and a completely black body. After receiving the order, it quickly flew away. His malicious smile echoed, 3 living sacrifices coming to the door. How could I let them go to waste? In the evening at Vantam City, the lights inside were all lit up. Tanvan was sitting inside, drinking tea. He elegantly sipped his tea while flipping through the pages of a novel. By the window, he sighed, realizing he had almost finished his book. He felt satisfied and happy, turning to the last page where the identity of the mysterious culprit behind it was about to be revealed. His eyes sparkled with excitement, but what met his eyes was a drawing along with the words, "Want to know who the culprit is? Not telling you, you'll be shocked and petrified." Tanvan couldn't help but curse at the little girl, her shout causing the entire Vantam city to tremble. People asked each other, what's going on? An earthquake immediately flew away in an instant. Someone looked on curiously. Oh my, what is that? In the blink of an eye, he reached Vantam Mountain, thinking it was Nguyet Quinvu. With an annoyed expression, he told himself, even if I have to flatten the entire Vantam Mountain and I must find her. In Vantam Mountain, where Quinvu's group was, it looked very desolate and deserted. She spoke up, what's wrong with this forest? The deeper they went, the more decayed it looked. Her mood was deteriorating, and a sense of fear was creeping into her heart. Moreover, she felt as if someone was staring at her. Suddenly, Baknan turned around and said loudly, no way. Something is approaching us, startling both of us. Immediately after, he was attacked by a shadow, but it moved too quickly for anyone to see. Both Kinvu and Makvan were stunned. He shouted, Junior brother, and quickly ran to support Baknan, calling out Junior brother while checking Baknan's condition. Kinvu shouted loudly, Makdauhu, be careful. However, due to being caught off guard, he was also attacked in the blink of an eye. At this moment, both of them had collapsed, leaving only Quinvu, who fearfully asked, who is it? Her whole body trembled as she stammered, show yourself. But the shadow appeared behind her. She didn't have time to resist and opened her eyes wide, but they began to close slowly. Huatanvan lowered her head silently, thinking something strange. Just a moment ago, I could feel the spiritual energy erupting from them. He stood opposite, alert, looking into the wild forest in front of him, his clothes billowing in the wind. The air was eerily quiet. How could it disappear in an instant? Hesitating, Thanvan paused subtly, sensing the surrounding atmosphere. There were no signs of battle. Why had it vanished? It was strange. Who was it that suddenly made the space around him feel disturbed by something? The leaves rustled and slowly fell. Thanvan half closed his eyes, using his mind to sense the surroundings. At that moment, a huge sound wave appeared above his head in the wind, seemingly hiding something. With a whoosh, a purple energy like a giant knife struck fiercely towards Thanvan. The giant trees around gradually collapsed and fell on top of each other. Thanvan closed his eyes, not moving at all, while the shadowy weapon continued to approach. Immediately, he opened his eyes wide, his light green pupils focused on the opposite side. The deep purple energy quickly surged towards him, aiming directly at his vital point. Thanvan's face darkened as he looked at the person opposite him. The terrifying expression made him shudder. Who are you? What do you want? The opponent, a chubby little girl with light brown hair, trembled as she looked up, hesitating and not daring to act. Thanvan silently observed the person who was once full of murderous intent, but now shrank back like a small cotton ball. He lowered his head and gently asked, Can't you speak? In response, the other person vigorously nodded. Once again, the depths of Thanvan's eyes darkened. You took down those 3 cultivators, right? Are they still alive? The corners of his mouth turned down completely, showing a frightening expression. Quickly lead me to them. I will punish you for this. This made the little girl tremble and sweat profusely. At that moment, a fierce roar suddenly echoed from deep within the forest. The wild sound made both of them jump. The poor little girl hunched over her eyes, tightly shut in fear, and immediately turned to flee, leaving Thanvan with a bewildered expression, as if realizing something. He quickly directed his gaze opposite. This was the soul-controlling bell in his mind, instantly bringing up the image of a large metal bell. The strange thing was that its exterior pattern seemed quite unique, and energy continuously emanated from the bell's tail. It made one unable to help but associate it with death. His master once said this was the way to seal the souls of living beings within the bell, using sound techniques to perform poison spells. From the appearance of the little girl earlier, he understood part of it. Thanvan's eyes immediately lit up with anger. So it's the people of the demon sect. Why are they here? In another scene, the atmosphere was filled with a sense of mourning, with sharp weapons stabbed straight into the ground, fresh blood flowing along the blades. It slowly dripped down to the ground. The man holding the soul-controlling bell coldly glanced at the bodies hanging in rows above his tone, mocking. Why have you been out for so long and still haven't captured any cultivators? He shook his hand violently, causing the silver bell to ring out with a deafening sound, stomping hard on the small body beneath him, showing no mercy just because she was small. Is that person really that hard to deal with? You're the Xuanyin divine beast, after all? He spoke in a terrifying tone. Do you want to take the opportunity to escape? The expression on the man's face was full of intimidation. If you have the intention to flee, our ancestor can use hundreds of ways to make you wish you were dead. At this moment, a low voice rang out from behind. No need for the ancestor to take action. Haven't I arrived? He was startled and turned his gaze behind him. The voice belonged to Tanvan, who was floating in midair, smirking slightly. So it's you, the Tauvan ancestor. In just a few days, you've managed to restore your physical body. You must have had help from a powerful person. The opponent immediately became furious, replaying the humiliating scene of himself in his mind. It's you. At this moment, a strong red energy surged from Tauvan's body. Like a fierce red snake, it lunged forward. With a bang, Tanvan gently released his spiritual energy to block the direct attack. The red illusion in front of him instantly vanished, posing no threat at all. He smirked disdainfully. I must say, ancestor, why are you still so weak? The opponent immediately went mad, his eyes wide with terror, his mind repeatedly echoing that mocking phrase as he looked at the person helplessly lying on the ground. Loudly order Xuanyin to kill this one. He wanted to show that the opponent had no fighting power. Tao Van shook the silver bell in his hand again, but quickly he used his energy to strike hard at the body of the man. The man trembled and lay flat on the ground. Tan Van smiled gently, directing his gaze at the tiny figure beside him. So you're named Xuanyin. The silver bell immediately broke in half before the eyes of Xuanyin, who was stunned, tears streaming down her face. In her ears, the warm voice of Tan Van echoed, You don't have to make blood sacrifices for them anymore. Tan Van bowed his head, his eyes shimmering with a hint of pity. For your freedom now. The little girl's tears immediately flowed like a waterfall, filling her pretty face. Tavan had completely lost his temper. He shouted loudly, You dare! But then suddenly remembered something, realizing that was the right way. Even without controlling the soul, you cannot disobey my orders. Huyanam stood trembling in place, while the tone of the person behind him grew increasingly high. Otherwise, that nobleman would surely make a sound. His voice suddenly stopped mid-sentence. She had jumped up at some point, forcefully using her body to slam into the opponent's neck, causing Tavan to groan in pain. She quickly rushed into Tanvan's arms, saying, You can go home now. The pale pupils trembled slightly, the clear tears reflecting the warm gaze of the person in front of her. Don't worry, just leave it to me. He suddenly recalled the tragic scenes of the past, experiencing the oppression and exploitation by others. I have experienced a lot already. Tavan jumped up in anger, showing no intention of letting go. Damn it, damn it. Blood Oyen's prison formation immediately summoned a group of spirits, their eyes shining brightly and terrifyingly. A giant hand reached out from within its dark claws, and pale, sickly skin was strange. Who is summoning this king? Tavan immediately knelt down, bowing to the entity that had just appeared, urgently pleading. Great Demon King, please kill this cultivator. He immediately extended his hand and punched down at Tanvan's position. Just a bunch of insignificant flies, and you need this king to personally take action. The powerful fist aimed down, causing the surrounding trees to bend under the pressure. A strange light appeared in front of Tanvan, catching his attention, but it hadn't fully formed yet. The fist had descended, confronting Tanvan's cold energy. The shadow twisted for a moment, looking at him still standing straight after the previous punch. Human, you are strong, but unfortunately the 4 kings are sealed by the heavenly path here. Only 1/5 of my power can be unleashed. Tanvan's pale green energy wrapped tightly around his body, cutting that original soul into hundreds of pieces. One day this king will personally step into this world. Let's fight a battle. Remember my name. Before he could finish his last words, his form gradually faded away. My name is Tanvan, he said, clasping his hands, sighing, as he looked at the chaotic purple energy swirling behind him, which made Huyanam's eyes widen in fear. I didn't expect things to turn out like this. This time, Tavan was completely taken aback, standing there with his mouth agape, not daring to move as Hua Tanvan floated above, unleashing bolts of lightning. Fly, Tavan affirmed. This time, I will not spare you. His hand began to move, controlling the bolts of lightning. Below his face was drenched in sweat as he shouted, Wait, Tavan, I haven't finished speaking yet. He imagined a weapon radiating fire and thought about how you lost the blood crystal before he could finish his sentence, when a green lightning bolt shot towards him, leaving behind numerous trails of smoke. After finishing, he turned around, leaving the mess behind. Suddenly, he glanced to one side, seeing Queen Vu and others lying in agony on the ground, their hands and feet bound by strange black and red vines. Accompanied by the voice that rang out, I must say your luck is really bad. Tangvan shot a green lightning bolt towards the vine, causing it to snap. She was released and gradually opened her eyes. Queen Vu slowly sat up, her eyes a bit fearful, asking, Is it you? He replied, It's okay now. Just lost too much spiritual energy. Rest for a while. I'll take you back to the city. Suddenly behind Tanvan, a white mist emerged. He sensed it and was quite puzzled. A red energy flew into the midst of the white mist, forming an object resembling the number 10. Gradually emerging from the mist, the shadow of Tavan appeared holding a spear and saying, Hua Tanvan, you almost had it. You could have killed me with that. A bright red gem appeared and he continued, If you have forced me to use my ultimate treasure. Tavan's face was magnified with a very fierce expression. Then from now on, the one who must die will be you. Tan Van turned around his face, showing disdain as he asked, "What is that?" Then he extended one hand, beginning to cast a spell while saying, "Although I don't know how you are now, if one strike doesn't kill you, then another strike will." Then Tan Van controlled the lightning to fly towards Ta Van. He had also prepared an attack stance, grinning widely and smugly, saying, "Ha ha ha, I am much stronger than you now." Suddenly a red mist, shaped like a smiling face, approached. It looked extremely eerie as it advanced. Tan Van was greatly astonished. Without hesitation, he raised his other hand to create a protective barrier around the others in midair, then used his hand to hold the remaining sword. He slashed towards that thing, but suddenly Tan Van's feet slipped back slightly after the collision between the two spells. The mist gradually dissipated, carrying away his thoughts about what had just happened, which was too unscientific. Earlier, the ancestor was still at the 7th level of the Four Realms, so how could he have reached the 2nd level of the Ascended Immortal Realm now? Earlier, the ancestor was at the 7th level of the Four Realms, so how has he reached the 2nd level of the Ascended Immortal Realm now? Could it be that Tan Van's face showed a hint of bewilderment? And then he spoke, "I remember now. The thing on your forehead is the ancient treasure, the celestial jade, right?" Ta Van below smiled brightly and replied, "As expected of a disciple from a prestigious sect, you can recognize this treasure." The image of hands reaching for the gem appeared. The scene below contrasted sharply with the one above. Skulls were emitting thick smoke towards the deep red gem. Then Tan Van put his hand into his sleeve to retrieve something while speaking. "Although I don't know how it ended up in your hands, everything in this world must adhere to the great principles of the Tao." He threw a mirror towards Ta Van and said, "Do you really think that achieving a transcendent realm and extraordinary recovery power comes without a price?" He continued, "Look at your current appearance. Don't let illusions cloud your judgment." Following Tan Van's words, he looked directly into the mirror and an old, ugly face appeared. "It can't be. I still have at least 800 years left." Ta Van was extremely angry and smashed the mirror, shouting, "How did I end up looking like this?" Seeing this, Tan Van felt a bit of pity. That ancient treasure is merely a demon that drains the lifespan of its owner. Ta Van yelled, "Shut up." His body was drenched in sweat, trembling as he placed a hand on his head to calm himself. "As long as I can bring my Thai back, that great being will surely grant me the elixir to restore my lifespan. Right now, if I can use the celestial jade wisely, I can definitely dominate this world." Hearing this, Tan Van felt uncomfortable and prepared to attack, saying, "It seems you've completely lost your reason. This celestial jade is indeed formidable." Ta Van then raised a finger to his mouth and bit down, drawing blood. "I told you to shut up." He then placed his bloodied finger on the gem on his forehead, and suddenly he was lifted into the air. The ground around Ta Van shattered into pieces and rose up, swirling into a bright red tornado. Tan Van quickly charged up to attack it with his sword, and suddenly he saw something that left him extremely surprised. "Huh!" He advanced to attack unexpectedly, causing Tan Van to spurt out a bit of blood. The image of Ta Van, wielding a weapon with the bright red gem against his darkened face, along with Tan Van's exclamation, revealed the power of the 5 great celestial realms. The smoke from the battle gradually dissipated. Tan Van, exhausted, sat on the ground, breathing heavily. He reached into his chest and pulled out a piece of paper. Ta Van began to twist his body. Preparing for a new attack, his face was extremely contorted and his bloodshot eyes cursed, "Huyanam, you little beast." At this moment, the little one was trembling and hovering in midair as Ta Van shot towards Huyanam. A stream of red energy accompanied by a shout, "You dare to rebel." Tan Van quickly rushed to shield the little one and used his sword to block the attack, then said to the little one, "Didn't I tell you to leave?" He continued to push his weapon to attack Tan Van, causing him to flinch as his clothes slipped a bit. At this moment, the paper on his chest turned black and began to float away. "Damn it, I'm too late." In front of Tan Van, something appeared to block Ta Van's spear. "Don't move!" His face bore an unbelievable expression as it vanished. Huyn Vu appeared at the spot where he had just been. Ta Van saw this and shouted, "Is it you, the Immortal?" He then swung an attack towards her. The piercing scream of Huyn Vu rang out as suddenly a burst of light erupted from beneath the ground. She gasped in surprise, her mouth forming an O as a pair of legs stepped out from the light. Tan Van looked extremely different. His eyes sparkled and his hair floated as Hua Tan Van slowly opened his eyes. Strange streams of spiritual energy began to radiate from his chest. His eyes flashed with light as he stood still, exuding great majesty. Ta Van, the old ancestor, laughed maniacally and charged forward, not fleeing, but rather offering his life. The two began to fight fiercely, but Ta Van suddenly halted, hesitating. He angrily exclaimed, "How is this possible? What have you done to block my attack?" Below Queen, Vu thought to herself, "So this guy is that powerful." Hua Tan Van spoke, "Just a bit of spiritual energy is enough to deal with you." "That's enough!" But I am still furious, shouting, "You dare to interrupt!" He swung a powerful sword, creating waves of furious energy. "You talk big, Hua Tan Van Di." Tan Van smiled faintly and replied, "From the moment I lifted the seal, you were already defeated." He then began to launch an attack, calling out Tan Van's sword technique. Immediately, a tremendous force erupted from where he stood, violently attacking Ta Van, who was now panicking, his face turning pale. And then he could not withstand that force and gradually fell, his body no longer intact, having been obliterated into nothingness. Hua Tanvan remained steadfast, reverting to his original form. The scene was extremely chaotic. Witnessing everything Queen Vu pondered, he has reverted back to the 6 realms of spiritual energy. She looked and silently said that this gem looked like her eyes were enchanted. She exclaimed, "So beautiful." Then she intended to reach out to touch it, but at that moment Hua Tanvan appeared. He stepped closer and whispered in her ear, "I advise you to refrain from touching it. It's better that way." After that, he reached out and captured it into his bag. Queen Vu bit her lip in fear, wondering if she had been enchanted. Hearing this, he replied, "That's right. That thing is very sinister. You should be careful, just like the old master of the sinister cloud, who was drained of his lifespan." In the misty haze, suddenly a small girl appeared. Queen Vu was taken aback and asked, "Who are you?" Then she angrily said, "You ambushed us." At that moment, she hurriedly ran to hide behind Hua Tanvan. He explained, "The girl's name is Huyan Am. She doesn't mean to harm anyone, she's just being controlled by the soul spirit of the demon sect." Queen Vu stammered, asking, "So where is that controlling soul spirit?" He replied, "I have already destroyed it." Hua Tanvan approached and patted Huyan Am's head, saying, "It's okay, you are safe now. You can relax now, but be careful not to let bad people catch you again. Understood?" Queen Vu still looked at Huyan Am with suspicion. She turned and said, "That girl is quite powerful." "Actually, you could keep her," Hua Tanvan replied. "If I did that, how would I be any different from those people of the demon sect?" Hearing this, she widened her eyes and said nothing. She seemed dissatisfied and added, "If it were someone else, they might also use the soul spirit to control Huyanam to keep her as a weapon." Then she quietly concluded, "It seems I misunderstood you before." Hua Tanvan slightly curved his lips. "If you have misunderstood me, then can you return the last page that you tore out?" She helplessly thought that this guy only knew about novels. Eventually, she handed the paper to Hua Tanvan. He spoke up. "Thank you this time." He took it and was excited. "This is indeed the torn page," he said, putting the paper away and turning to smile. "Thanks to you, it would have been troublesome otherwise. By the way, I hope you won't speak of today's events outside." He added, "Eliminating the old demon elder is a significant achievement. Don't ask too much. Just consider it a favor, all right? Looking at my spear that I left behind, what do you plan to do with it?" Tanvan replied, "I will take this back to the sect for them to handle." He smiled and said, "Miss Nguyen, please take care of the 2 disciples of Vantam sect." "I'll take this item back to the sect first." She shouted, "Can you just leave like that? I'm not their babysitter, you know." At that moment, Tanvan was about to touch the spear, but a surge of power stopped him. "I won't let you take this demon tie spear away, Papasiu." He thought again. Another one from the Immortal realm. The other person grasped the spear in hand and said, "Tanvan sword sect. Hoa, Tanvan, I will remember your face." He was taken aback and hadn't regained his composure when that person had already vanished. Queen Vu trembled and spoke up. "Such powerful force. Who was that just now?" He replied, "It must be some elder from the demon sect." At that moment, she urged from behind him, "Aren't you going to chase after them? That weapon must be very important, right?" He answered, "First, that person's strength is very strong. It's not easy to deal with. Second, retrieving the demon tie spear is not my mission, Chike." He narrowed his eyes and continued, "Third, it's time to rest. Miss Nguyen, we may meet again by chance." In his heart, he thought he needed to hurry home to check the novel. After finishing his words, he flew away. Queen Vu stayed behind, sticking out her tongue. "Who wants to see you? Since meeting you, nothing good has happened." Huyanam also flew after Hua Tanvan. She looked and pondered. That girl indeed followed him. She thought further. His strength is profound and unpredictable. His character is not bad. And his appearance is... Then she gritted her teeth. "Since meeting you, nothing good has happened. The mysterious sound has also followed." Tanvan looked on thoughtfully. That girl had indeed followed him. She thought further about his profound strength, unpredictable character, and decent appearance, then gritted her teeth. "It's so annoying. What am I thinking? This guy dares to make me clean up the mess. Next time we meet, I definitely won't want to see him again. Get up!" A voice rang out, shaking the heavens and the earth. The subordinates who were beaten began to stir and sit up painfully, holding their faces. Magvan gently asked what had happened, and Huyen Vu, grimacing, recounted the whole story. After hearing this, Magvan was confused and whispered, "Is that the weapon of the demon sect?" Then Huyen Vu replied, "Yes, you could say that. We were lucky. The old man, Tavan, died from exhausting his lifespan." Magvan stood up and asked, "Has Hua Daohu left?" "We haven't even had the chance to thank him." Bachnan chimed in, "Isn't the heavenly hero gathering about to start? With his strength, he will definitely represent the sect at the gathering." Magvan continued, "That's right then, I can personally thank him." Huyen Vu, after hearing this, wondered what the heavenly hero gathering was. Magvan scratched his head and said, "Nguyet Konung lives in isolation at Huatam Tingkung, so it's not surprising she doesn't know." He began to explain that most of the powers in Donghuang had joined the sect alliance, and every 15 years, each major sect would send 5 representatives to compete in various forms of contests to determine their rankings, which was called the Heavenly Hero Gathering. Magvan continued, "The rankings of the Heavenly Heroes would determine the ranking of the sect, affecting the distribution of resources later." Huyen Vu replied, "So that's how it is? Can I participate in the Heavenly Hero Gathering?" Magvan replied, "With the strength and reputation of Oatam Tingkung, it should be fine." She then secretly smiled, "That way I can meet that scoundrel again." Her smile became increasingly mischievous. Looks like I need to return to the sect. The scene shifted to Hua Danvan, who was flying while pondering the true identity of the person from earlier. He thought to himself that to perform that kind of magic, one would need a large amount of spiritual energy and stealth skills. He emphasized that unless he broke 1/3 of the seal, he would not be a match for him. He was deep in thought, but now the demon sect was rampant. Even his master had been ambushed by them. He continued, the demon sect's matai is an indispensable item for them. I am certain that even if I tried to seize matai, it would only put the sect in greater danger. It would only bring more trouble to the sect. After that, Hua Tanvan looked up at the sky and said, I only wish to cultivate at Tanvan Kimtong. How could I cause trouble for myself like this? Suddenly a strange breeze appeared behind him. He turned around suspiciously and coldly said, Why are you following me? Before he could finish, Huyanam had rushed into his arms and he was taken aback. Why did you come here? He looked at her and added, Do you have nowhere to go, so you want to follow me? Huyanam hugged him tighter and tighter. He thought for a moment and then spoke, I can take you in, but if you want to leave in the future, you don't need to inform me. You can go anytime. Huyanam rushed into him crying. He patted her head and smiled. I never expected that a worker like me could pick up a divine beast on the way back. After thinking this, he embraced her and flew away, thankful that to others she was just a breeze. This way reduces a lot of trouble. If there's a chance in the future, I will definitely help you solve your problems, he softly said to her. Here we are at Tanvan Kimtong, he gently added. From now on, consider this place your home. At Nguyetam's residence, On Kim jumped out and said to Nguyetam, How is the situation with Nguyetam Tinto? Nguyetam waved her hand and said, She has multiple broken bones, and her dantian and 5 organs are all injured. I see that if we delay any longer, even a celestial being would find it hard to save her. On Kim gritted his teeth. So what now? Nguyetam replied, I have given her the rejuvenation creation pill, which can keep her alive for now. On Kim clenched his fist and gritted his teeth. I will definitely go to the Alliance and demand justice for you. At the secret realm of the Alliance, Tientong Ungwet Te Daoist, Tuhin spoke on Lao. Day you summoned everyone with the Yunguit spirit talisman. What do you want to discuss? On Kiem now spoke recently. The demon sect's cultivators have been rampant everywhere in the cities of Tanvan. I have been targeted by a demon sect cultivator who crafted a blood crystal pearl. That guy is fierce, and the elder of the demon sect, Mak Hien, has successfully created Matai. He waved his hand and continued, I think you all know what this means. On Kim continued, Although my sect's disciples have not retrieved Matai, we have obtained the blood crystal pearl. I received special orders to send Kovudung Chu to personally bring back the blood crystal pearl from the Alliance, but he was ambushed by the demon sect cultivators, and the blood crystal pearl was stolen. He's also seriously injured. Tuhin Daoist was shocked. What? Has the leader of the encouragement path been seriously injured by someone else? But he is a first-level celestial being and is also proficient in the earth-shifting technique. How could he be so severely injured? Van Du spoke echoing the words of Master On, emphasizing that the situation is extremely serious. He stressed that there must be a spy within the Alliance and added that starting today, all sect leaders should thoroughly investigate the situation of their disciples remaining in the Alliance. We must prevent anyone from secretly colluding with the demon sect and quickly find the whereabouts of the person who attacked the leader of the encouragement path. He continued, in addition, all major sects need to decisively deal with the demon sect's strongholds in their areas. Once a demon sect cultivator is discovered, they must inform the Alliance to eliminate them completely. He glanced at Master On, asking if he agreed with this arrangement. Master On Jian stood up and said that if the sects could seriously implement this, he would comply. Of course I agree, Van Du immediately replied. I will arrange it right away. Van Gogh Hien also added that regarding the demon sect cultivators, he mentioned that a few hours ago, his sect's core disciple reported that they had encountered a demon sect elder, the elder of the evil cloud located in the Vantam mountain range of our Vantam prefecture. He frowned and recounted that they were ambushed by the evil cloud elder, who drained their spiritual energy to the brink of death. Afterwards, the evil cloud elder used a secret treasure, the heavenly pearl of the celestial kingdom, which caused him to exhaust his lifespan and die. In the end, it was the disciple of the Joyful Heart Celestial Palace and a cultivator named Hua Than Van who joined forces to kill him. Master Onjian was taken aback upon hearing this. What Hua Than Van Master Onjian looked puzzled and contemplated. What Hua Than Van isn't that person on leave? Why did he come here? Van Gogh Hien spoke up. Oh, Master On, do you know this cultivator? Master Onjian replied, the Thanvan Sword sect indeed has a disciple named Hua Tanvan, but his cultivation level does not exceed the 6th level of the Spirit Palace. He added that he might just be a supporting disciple for the Shwantam Celestial Palace. When I return, I will ask him. Tutin then spoke, everyone recently the demon sect has been operating more frequently. To prevent this threat, the General Secretary emphasized that I think the rules for the upcoming Celestial Heroes Conference will change a bit, which will encourage the efforts and growth of the disciples. What do you all think? The Taoist Zihien crossed his arms and commented on this, but since the establishment of the Self-Immortal sect, the rules for the Celestial Heroes Conference have also changed since it began more than 3 times. Now, with the time so close, if the rules change, would it be appropriate? Tutin waved his hand and laughed. Everyone rest assured that to encourage the disciples as the main host, I will certainly not be stingy. Looking at Tutin's hand, everyone was astonished, and Master Onjian was shocked. Van Hien exclaimed, "What?" Zihien added, "That is, Tuting has used his power to create a key. He said to use this as a reward for the top leader of the Celestial Heroes Conference. What do you all think?" The scene shifted to Hua Tanvan, who was currently knocking loudly on a door, laughing loudly. "Sir, how are you recovering? I've come to visit you." The leader of the encouragement path was awakened by the call. He sat up and said, "Fortunately, over the past few days, the Moonheart Fairy has been taking care of me, so I am much better now." He smiled gently. "I just need to rest for a few more days." Hua Tanvan placed the medicine box down and said, "Then, Master, you can rest easy." He opened the medicine box, revealing 2 spirit teas inside. He instructed his master, "This is spirit tea. I took great care in preparing it." He poured water into it and continued, "Combined with pure mineral water, I'll give the leader a cup to help restore spiritual energy. Its effect on circulating energy channels is also very good." He slowly approached and kindly said, "Master, please have a sip." After that, the leader of the encouragement path gently said, "Not bad." The leader then spoke up when he saw Tanvan smiling happily. "Tanvan, if you have time to tend to flowers and plants like this, you should use it for cultivation instead. Otherwise, at this rate, you won't even reach the 6th level of spiritual perception." The leader of the encouragement path added, "You must know that among the core disciples, your cultivation is the lowest." Tanvan, hearing this, gritted his teeth and thought, "Here we go again. Then I must reluctantly release a bit of spiritual energy." After that, he spread his arms and released spiritual energy, saying, "Master, look, I have reached the 8th level of the Spirit Palace." The leader of the encouragement path was surprised and softly exclaimed, "Oh." But suddenly the leader of the encouragement path paused. He waved his hand and pointed out, "But it has been more than 5 years since you broke through to the 6th level of the Spirit Palace. Look at your junior sister. She has only been cultivating for a short time and has already entered the Immortal realm." Tanvan hurriedly replied, "I will remember Master's teachings and will seriously cultivate in the future." The leader of the encouragement path helplessly said, "Stop imitating my voice." The leader sighed. "All right, these are just the things that teachers and students often talk about. I know that talking too much is not what you like. You coming to visit me like this shows your sincerity." Then he spread his arms to release his spiritual energy and said, "Master, look, I have reached the 8th level of the spiritual palace realm." The branch leader unexpectedly exclaimed, but suddenly he paused, waving his hands to point out, "But it's been more than 5 years since you broke through to the 6th level of the spiritual palace realm. Look at your junior sister. She has only been cultivating for a short time and has already entered the death and fortune realm." Tanvan quickly said, "I will remember the teachings of my master and will seriously cultivate. Branch leader, please stop mimicking my voice." The branch leader sighed. "All right, it's all the things that teachers and students often talk about. I know that you don't like to hear too much, but your visit to me like this shows your sincerity." Tangvan hurriedly smiled and left, hoping that the master could rest well. The disciple takes their leave now. But not letting him have his way, the roadmaster stopped him, saying softly, "Wait, during that time when I went out, I was severely injured by the leader of the demon sect, Hangba, even in danger of losing my life. You mentioned that the jade pendant I gave you during that birthday party. It helped me withstand a fatal blow." He grimaced while explaining. "Then suddenly a sword strike from nowhere injured Hangba, allowing me to escape. Tanvan, tell me honestly, are you hiding something from me? For example, are you really concealing your cultivation level?" The roadmaster continued. "Or have you sealed your spiritual power?" Tanvan's face twisted in discomfort. "Master, are you serious? If you were hiding your cultivation, could you deceive me and the sect leader?" The roadmaster sighed and said nothing. Then he rested his chin on his hand and spoke. "That's right, you are my disciple whom I accepted when you entered the sect. A difficult matter like this, I guess you wouldn't be able to handle it, right?" At this moment, the roadmaster wondered, "But what about the jade pendant?" Tanvan replied, "I found this jade pendant in a yang, in that secret realm. I felt that this pendant was extraordinary. It must be a precious item. On the occasion of your birthday, master, I took it to give to you." The roadmaster chuckled lightly in response. "I really didn't expect you to accidentally find such a treasure. This jade pendant might contain the sword aura of a legendary sword immortal. Luckily you were there, otherwise I wouldn't have survived to this day." Tanvan scratched his head, avoiding the compliment. Suddenly the roadmaster spoke up. "That's right, disciple." Tanvan turned to him. "What's wrong, master?" At that moment, the roadmaster unleashed a palm strike, creating a tremendous gust of wind. Tanvan's face turned pale as he stammered, "Master Yu, what are you thinking? Is everyone into this kind of thing now?" The roadmaster laughed heartily. "Although you have broken through to the 8th level of the Spirit Palace realm, your reaction is still insufficient." Tanvan forced a smile. "Master, your teachings are correct." At this moment, the notebook tucked under Tanvan's arm slowly revealed itself before falling heavily onto the bed. The roadmaster was surprised. This is Tanvan looking confused, as if he was trying to hide something. Tanvan quickly grabbed the book and hurriedly hid it in his clothes, blushing as he spoke. "Master, this is just some daily entertainment for the disciple." The roadmaster waved his hand. All right, you can step back now. He added, every day you must prioritize your cultivation. It's better to read these books less. Tanvan, puzzled, thought it was strange. I didn't expect the master not to scold me. The roadmaster shouted, why aren't you leaving yet? Tanvan then left the room. The roadmaster slowly lifted the bedsheet, revealing the book that Tanvan had just held. I didn't expect Tanvan to have such an eye for it. He even reads the book I wrote, he thought, blushing. Is it possible that during his break he went to Tanvan Tam just to buy this? He coughed violently, saying, but this matter should be kept from him. Inside the grand hall, an important meeting was taking place. The people here must have heard of Onkiem, who stood in the middle speaking to the participants. The rules of the Heavenly Chowthin Association will change. The roadmaster of Fongling Road, Fong Tianlung, expressed his concerns. The sect leader has said that until now the Heavenly Chowhung Association has been respected for using martial arts to engage. Is it really necessary to have Onkim this time? With a smile on his lips, he replied, that's right. This time, it's to test the adaptability of the disciples from various sects when faced with dangerous situations. After 10 sect leaders vote, if the result is 7-3, this change will be approved. The changes will have a significant impact. First, the rule prohibiting harming others' lives will be abolished. To ensure this, a new law will be added. All cultivators must sign a death waiver before entering the battlefield. Next, to increase trust among the sects, when the match begins, the elders of each sect will protect their disciples. However, if casualties occur, the sects must not be angry. Those present expressed some concern about this matter. The roadmaster of Lam Nguyet Road, Lam Dong, still harbored worries. However, the disciples participating in the Heavenly Chowthing Association were not all geniuses. If something unexpected happened, it would likely result in a loss of cultivation level. Onakiem explained, it's understandable for you to worry, Lam Roadmaster. But currently the cultivators of the demon sect are becoming more active. He smiled comfortably to reassure him. To cope with this risk in the future, young disciples must accept rigorous training and grow. At this point, the roadmaster Lam Tam of Dongkan also contributed, that's right. Whether it's cultivators of the yin sect or monsters in the secret realm, they will pose a significant threat to the lives of the disciples. It can be said that cultivators in this world must overcome this every day. Kovu strongly agreed with that viewpoint. That's right. After facing danger, maintaining a calm mindset, sharp judgment, and decisive action, he can imagine how a righteous cultivator would confront the demon sect in such a harsh manner. Therefore, the roadmaster of Lu Van Rod Kovu became even more serious about this. Factors that exceed this realm will instead affect the survival ability of cultivators. Onkiem smiled even more brightly thanks to that support. Co-Roadmaster is right. Moreover, this time Dong Roadmaster has prepared for the head of the sect. He mentioned something extremely important that made the Roadmaster startle. The final key of Maingok Tran, the Heavenly Emperor. What is it? The branch leader was right, especially since this time the Eastern branch leader had prepared something for the head. He mentioned something extremely important that made all branch leaders shudder, the final key of Maingok Tran, the Heavenly Emperor. What is it? Not only those who are $0 in love, but also those who are in agreement, exclaimed in surprise, gently shaking each other in shock at the figure of the leader of the trade world, 5 million years ago, Maingok Tran, the Celestial Emperor, who after passing away, left behind countless supreme techniques. The aura he radiated caused the earth and rocks to crumble and the waters to churn. Later, people discovered his tomb in the Sea of Pride, which contained many terrifying forbidden techniques. To open it, one must gather all 5 pieces of the key. And what astonished them even more was that until now, they had obtained 4 pieces of the key. Surprisingly, the last piece was in the hands of the celestial sect's Tin Tian, who shrugged and replied, that's right, if we can obtain the last piece of the key. We will have hope to enter the Emperor's tomb and share the rewards. The ambition of the leader of the Hanvan sect was immense as his voice grew more resolute. Therefore, this time, at the Celestial Kir Grand Meeting, our Thanvan sword sect must secure the top position, he declared, his voice echoing throughout the sect. Next week, the competition among the sects will begin. Has everyone heard? This time, the battle among the sects will not be like before. Hearing about the new rules that had been announced made them even more incredulous. Not only could they use talismans, elixirs, and treasures, but even forbidden techniques were allowed. Really isn't that very dangerous? The eager disciple explained, no need to worry, in the battles the elders of each sect will protect their disciples. Moreover, the sect's rules state that the top 5 will compete in the final. Receiving generous rewards and being able to represent the sect at the Celestial Kyu Grand Meeting every year. They hurriedly rushed off. So what are we waiting for? Let's go buy supplies. If we are late, we might miss out on everything. Hey, wait for me. Tanvan gently removed his blindfold from the tree. You seem a bit too excited. He calmly spun the blindfold in his hand. Fortunately, I stocked up a bit early. Suddenly, someone jumped out from behind him and startled him. Flower, senior brother. Tanvan sat up and saw the cheerful face of his junior brother. Why are you still here? Aren't you going to buy some elixirs or talismans? He stood up and pointed to himself, saying, if I have Flower, senior brother, to teach me that sword technique, what do I need those other things for? Tanvan sighed and reminded him, there are always higher mountains. In battle, you cannot be complacent. Otherwise, you will fail. The naive junior brother replied, "In this competition, I believe I will secure first place. According to the rules, the top 3 will be able to compete with the true disciples. If I win, the rules this time are quite similar to the previous battle," which surprised him a bit. "I will become a new true disciple." Tanvan exclaimed, "Are you serious, junior brother?" He confirmed once more, "Absolutely correct. I heard many disciples are lining up to challenge you." Tanvan whispered, smiling slyly, "If in the battle I pretend to lose so those disciples can defeat me, then wouldn't it be easy to shed the identity of a true disciple and return to being an inner disciple? If so, my life would become more comfortable." He laughed wickedly. Despite that, Nguyen's eyes widened in surprise. "You truly are a flower, senior brother. Facing such challenges from many junior brothers, you are not flustered at all. Those who dare to underestimate flower senior brother will eventually pay the price." At that moment, the communication stone in Tanvan's pocket suddenly lit up. "Tanvan, come to Liuvan Road to find me." He immediately recognized that voice. His master calling for me. Sa-ta-sat. Therefore, he hurriedly left. "Junior brother, practice hard. I'm going to find master now." Nguyen cheerfully said goodbye to flower senior brother. In the blink of an eye, he returned to the sect master's residence with a few leaves. "Master, you were looking for me." He sat leisurely at the wooden table and ordered Tanvan to sit down. Tanvan regarding the competition among the sects this time. "I have a strict rule for you." Tanvan's mouth moved in surprise. "What rule is that?" The master gently expressed his wish. "It's not difficult for you. I just hope that among the 20 participants in this competition, you can achieve it." The young man exclaimed loudly in protest. "That can't be." "Absolutely not. I am determined to use this competition to return as an inner disciple." His master was slightly angry. "Our Tanvan sword sect has a total of 55 true disciples. Tanvan, you just need to work a little harder. Becoming one of the top 10 is very easy." He still had sparkling eyes, explaining, "Master, if I truly had that ability, why am I still at a low level?" Oh, Kovu sighed sadly. "Tanvan, do you remember why I accepted you as my disciple? At that time on the podium, you displayed a segment of sword energy. I still remember it now." He suddenly recalled when Tanvan impressively defeated another disciple. Your swordsmanship is not inferior to any true disciple. He also remembered that moment and regretted that he shouldn't have overdone it. He never expected that using only 10% of his strength would create such power. Nevertheless, he still tried to avoid that desire. "Master, that swordsmanship was just a momentary thing, right? Even if you tell me to demonstrate that sword technique again now, I would still comply." The face of the encouragement suddenly darkened. Could it be that I want to refuse? Master Tanvan remained resolute in his intention. My master truly cannot do it. No one can stop me from returning to become an inner disciple. Before his words could finish, the encouragement angrily slammed the book down on the table. "The abilities of the disciples are limited. I really cannot do it." The pink book with a few flower petals was incredibly familiar to Tanvan. Both of his cheeks flushed pink upon recognizing it. "Master, this is..." The encouragement snapped his fingers and tossed the book to him. "Read this." Tanvan took it, unable to hide his surprise. "Master, you actually read this." He quickly flipped through the pages of the book and murmured, "Fishbone, fishbone." After finishing, Tanvan exclaimed excitedly. The encouragement his master also shyly turned away. "Master, did you write this?" He continued to reach into his robe and pulled out a stack of papers filled with text. "These are 12 pages of Bao Tao that haven't been published yet." Tanvan trembled in shock. The author of his favorite novel was right beside him. How could it be that my master is so close? He suddenly realized, something causing sweat to drip down his face with extreme worry. Tanvan cautiously asked, "Master, when you told me about this, you didn't mean..." The encouragement took back the book from his hands with a sly smile, and his subsequent words seemed to carve deep into the disciple's mind. "If you don't make it into the top 20, the price to pay for that will be... I will make the little junior sister, the main character in this book, die." The master's words struck Tanvan like a thunderbolt. "Wow, what? The little junior sister is the character I like the most." He immediately rushed towards the encouragement and reproached him. "Master, how can you decide the fate of the character so recklessly? Can you face those who love this book?" The encouragement did not stop, even though his face became stiff. "By the way, I will marry the senior sister of the main character to someone else." Tanvan was even more shocked, feeling 100 times worse as he struggled internally. "That's my second favorite character, Master. You are truly cruel." But he quickly regained his composure from being led astray. Tanvan threatened his master. "Well, Master, aren't you afraid that I will tell the sect leader that you wrote this novel?" The encouragement gently opened the teacup and smirked. "Then I will have the childhood friend of the main character die in front of her." Tanvan was in so much pain that he coughed up blood. His master was using sweet words to lure him. "But if you make it into the top 20, I won't just treat the characters you like better, but I will also let you see this unpublished manuscript, and I'll even give you the side story and these drawings." Faced with that temptation, Tanvan trembled uncontrollably. In the end, he had to give in, sighing at the top of his head. "You said you would keep your word." After that, he went outside and accidentally ran into Cook Tianhua, who had a face that couldn't look any dirtier. He gently placed his hand on his fellow disciple's shoulder and said, "Cook Tian, the sect leader, is looking for you." He still carried that sulky mood while working, and Cook Tian looked on with many questions. The encouragement had successfully convinced him, so he was very happy. Compared to what I thought, Cook Tien is still a bit lazy. Sect leader, why are you so happy today? The encouragement smiled while assigning him a task. Cook Tien, go to the Feng Seal area and inform the Swordheart senior sister that she's currently in seclusion for an important matter. His next worry was Swordheart. That child was practicing so hard that she forgot to check the announcements from the Jade Mansion. Cook Tien immediately obeyed and rode his sword to the Feng Seal area. Yes, he replied as he landed with a bit of force in front of a tightly closed wooden door. Senior sister Na Cook Tien from Luvan Sect requests an audience. After a while, when no one responded, he had to look up to see if anyone would answer. Senior sister Nak is indeed in seclusion. Just as he spoke, a powerful spiritual energy gathered in the air, creating a strong wind that almost pushed everyone around back. Cook Tien braved himself to step inside and called out loudly, Senior sister Nak. Immediately his eyes widened in astonishment. A strange object was floating in the air, swirling with the wind and leaves. What is that? While he was still trembling in fear, Swordheart landed on the ground with a fierce aura. The sword force is too strong? She narrowed her eyes and asked him as if she was about to strike him. Did you see it? Cook Tien was so scared he almost wet his pants, but still had to report, Senior sister Nak, I didn't see anything at all. I am the inner disciple of Luvan Sect. Cook Tien has been ordered to inform you about the upcoming Tiantin meeting. I invite Senior Sister Hak to participate in the sect's competition. Swordheart's attitude immediately changed to a cute one. So you are the junior brother of Hoa's senior brother. Even so, she still smiled coldly at him and asked, You haven't seen anything here, right? Cook Tien, scared to death, shouted, I haven't seen anything at all. I haven't seen anything at all. Don't bully the juniors anymore. Only then did she let him go. I know, you can go. After Cook Tien left Swordheart, sighed to herself, too focused on practicing the sword. Even others who come in do not know that the smile on her face gradually blooms after remembering senior brother Tan Van, who is truly amazing. These past few days, I feel that my swordsmanship has improved again. She again hates remembering the slimy monster she had a hard time fighting before. If I were to battle the puppets under the control of Xuan Kiemtam, now, the spiritual energy would swirl around my fingers. In just 3 sword strikes, I could tear them apart. The small stone inscribed with characters is still enveloped in her spiritual energy. I must continue to practice hard in these last few days. She smiled with great satisfaction. Senior brother, wait for me in the sect's swordsmanship competition. I will definitely astonish you. Meanwhile, Thanvan is still annoyed and shouts, How dare you threaten me, master? He bit his lip, tormented by this grudge. On the table lay countless treasures he had acquired. Using sword techniques would easily reveal one's true strength. Fortunately, this time the rules are flexible, so I will use some magical artifacts to secure victory, but that should be enough to win. This way I won't become the center of attention anymore. He gathered all of them into a bag. With these items, he just needed to adjust his strength a bit to win a few matches easily. But while he was tidying up his belongings, his eyes... Tanvan looked at a red stone that was emitting a faint light. This is the lost gem of Elder Van. The stone sparkled with a red glow, making it even more beautiful. Tanvan intended to reach out to take it. Then the stone emitted a voice, Pick me up, and I will help you achieve everything. It reflected the image of the person in front and tempted him, Just let your soul enter my body and I can grant you unparalleled cultivation. If you want something, I will get it for you. It kept saying too much, making him a bit uncomfortable. Go away, go away. Although Thanvan was clearly annoyed, the magical power from the red stone increased. Just by putting in a little spiritual energy, he would exchange it for boundless power. Go away, monopolize me. He directly threw it to the ground. Monopolize. You keep talking nonsense and I will find a stick to smash you. A red stone fell to the ground and remained silent for a moment. It was surprised and flew straight up, questioning him. You refuse to accept the benefits I offer. I have lived for so long, but I have never encountered a situation like this. Thanvan scoffed, making the mysterious figure embarrassed. Is this all you have to offer? I thought it was some ridiculous advertisement. Then the power from the stone surged outward even more. He raised an eyebrow at it and asked, What exactly are you? Thanks to his question, the mysterious figure had the opportunity to showcase its power. I am the celestial demon of the demon realm. Thanvan looked at the thing in front of him with a bored expression. What kind of celestial demon are you? He had never heard of it before. The red gem became furious and arrogantly declared, I in the past came to this world with the demon sect. After the demon sect left, I remained here. In terms of status, the cultivators of the Shangyuan realm must respectfully call me Your Excellency. Thanvan smirked even more disdainfully. Oh, so you are abandoned. Celestial demon. You have reached the peak of annoyance, he exclaimed. You are just a gem. So it flew around him and shouted, How dare you insult me if you have the ability to put your spiritual energy into this celestial gem? I must let you know what respect is. He then pretended to be interested as he looked at the streams of spiritual energy swirling around it. Is there a secret space within the celestial gem? The red gem reflected Thanvan's face like a mirror. The celestial demon was still very pleased. What, you little brat, are you afraid to enter? Thanvan said nothing. He gently transmitted a stream of his power into it, gradually making it stronger. With his calm demeanor, what was there to be afraid of, he then moved into the space of the celestial gem. Floating in the air, Thanvan turned to look at the black and purple flames gathering before him revealing a large face with tightly knitted brows. "You foolish race, how dare you come here?" The corners of Tanvan's mouth curled slightly as he challenged. "You look quite shabby, you don't even have a body." The celestial demon became furious and retorted, "I am the celestial demon lord. A useless race like you dares to speak to me like that." Tanvan crossed his arms puzzled. "Why did you change your name to Demon Lord?" The figure in front of him explained, "Celestial Demon is the race. Demon Lord is the title. Celestial Demon Lord is the name." He yawned, bored. Why make it so complicated? Then Tanvan looked at the streams of spiritual energy blazing around it and gave it a name. "Seeing your exterior is purple and you are a celestial demon, I will call you Purple Demon." The celestial demon was not pleased with that. "You should address others properly. Call me Celestial Demon and Lord." Tanvan's face still wore a sly smile. "All right, Purple Demon. He can't do anything to you other than curse your filthy name." Then he opens his mouth full of sharp teeth to threaten you. You can only be arrogant for a little while longer. I am the ruler of this space. Do you think you can come in here and leave at will?" The boy retorted to him with a very sarcastic tone. "Oh, then how can I get out of here?" The great master suddenly turned pale and looked away, replying, "One, you must have my permission. But with your attitude, letting you out is absolutely out of the question." The little one with sharp eyes turned to stare at him and continued, "To trade with me, wealth, beautiful women, or status and cultivation. Which one do you choose?" Tanvan chuckled mysteriously, then with sparkling eyes suggested to him, "Could you grant me eternal life? I could avoid work for my entire life." Upon hearing this, Tongtian hesitated. "Increase your lifespan, huh?" "I can't do that," he said, and Tanvan showed clear disappointment. Ugh, useless. He's about to explode with anger again, but he still held back to proceed with the trade. "Do you have any other wishes?" Tanvan stroked his chin, thinking, then said, "Or make my sister cultivate a few more volumes for me to enjoy. How about that?" Tongtian looked confused, a question mark appearing above his head. "What is that?" He rummaged through his sleeve and pulled out a very famous novel from the outside. He scratched his head and chuckled happily. "By the way, my master is the author of that book." Tongtian glared and shouted at him, "Who allowed you to make such a wish?" Tanvan argued with him, "You're so useless that you can't even fulfill two simple wishes." The limits of Tongtian were touched by him to the core, prompting him to make a decisive statement. "You must not call me Great Master Tongtian, and also have 0 points in trading with me. I will lock you here forever." He continued, making Tanvan extremely uncomfortable. "I will let you die in fear and hunger, turning your flesh to pulp, your bones to dust, and your blood to flow like a river." Suddenly, a large hand appeared and tightly gripped his mouth. Knowing it was Tanvan's spiritual power, he was extremely panicked. "How can you touch my spiritual body?" With 2 fingers raised, Tanvan chanted a spell while asking him, "With your permission, I can go outside, right?" Tongtian was sweating profusely, but still bravely retorted, "Are you trying to hit me? Unless you can surpass the rules of the great Tao, you cannot harm me." But those words would make him regret. Just a few seconds later, a bolt of lightning flashed before his eyes. Tanvan raised his hand to create an electric current, and his face darkened, looking very terrifying. "Is that so? What a coincidence." Although Tongtian's spiritual body was already purple now, he looked even more pale than before. Regarding the rules of the great Tao, this sword energy around Tanvan emitted a dazzling light with gusts of wind swirling around. The lightning continued to radiate from him. "Fortunately, I also have some understanding of it." Soon after, he returned to the outside where a gentle breeze swirled around him and then dissipated. In Tanvan's hand was Tongtian's jade, and he smiled. Unexpectedly this time, he even picked up something unexpected. Remembering how he had just beaten Tongtian, causing him to shed tears while handing over the item, Tanvan said, "These magical treasures, I'm satisfied. They're just okay." He tucked the jade into his robe and felt more at ease. With a few treasures from the purple demon, he no longer needed to worry about the battle. Tanvan yawned tiredly after successfully robbing. "There are still 2 days until the competition. Now I need to take advantage of the time to rest." In another place, deep within the forest, a cold breeze blew into the empty cave. A suspicious cultivator was acting secretly while sitting before a mirror, where the voice of a person echoed. "In this seg battle, how much of a chance do you have?" The other person whispered back, "With the treasure that the master granted, getting into the top 5 is not a problem." The mysterious person continued, "Very good. Fortunately, you were here to gather intelligence. I just recovered my blood essence." The loyal cultivator swore, "If the master hadn't helped back then, I wouldn't have survived until now. I will face any difficulties for you." His laughter echoed, "You really have a heart." The mysterious person reminded him of their agreement. "When you stand at the top of the Heavenly Bridge Conference, I will take you away from Tanvan Sword Sect." His eyes narrowed and he exclaimed, "Master, please rest assured." The cultivator knelt before him and displayed his respect. "I will pay any price. I will definitely fulfill the order." The other person heard those words and smiled. 2 days later, at Tanvan Sword Sect, the cultivators gathered in droves for the arena. Today is truly a good day. Onkiem on the high platform began to welcome everyone. The disciples that Tanvan Sword Sect has recruited in recent years. Today they have gathered here for this competition, which not only tests your cultivation strength over the years, but more importantly, aims to find the strongest disciple of Tanvan Sword Sect. He also announced the rules to all contestants. Compared to previous year's competitions, this match allows the use of talismans, elixirs, treasures, or formations. Standing below listening to Onkiem, everyone felt extremely excited about what they needed to do. That is to become a strong opponent and achieve the highest position. Those in higher positions all sat on one side, but no matter who it is, they must not intentionally harm their fellow disciples. The roadmasters and grand elders will supervise the matches to prevent any disciples from being seriously injured. Onkiem raised his hand to unleash his spiritual power, and so from now on, the matches for the inner disciples will immediately begin. His techniques stirred the wind and created sparkling rays of light in the sky, gradually forming signs engraved with the names of the contestants, which then flew down to their respective owners. The jade tablet in your hands is the match identifier for each person. Wen Yin has also received his jade tablet and read the name inscribed within. Some other contestants were quite confused. After seeing their order A36 Bean 4 Seb, the arena was opened with the command from Onkiem. Those with glowing jade tablets would step onto the competition stage immediately. 2 people had already stepped up and drawn their swords. The first match features Kin Andung Chungden and Lam Nguytdung Batchin. Cheers erupted from below. Go for it, go for it. Lam, sitting in the stands, eagerly asked the Dongmaster beside him, "What do you think of these 2 inner disciples?" He smiled and said, "They have some qualities?" The Dongmaster beside him suddenly spoke up, observing the match with a calm expression while sipping tea. The battle on the stage was extremely fierce, with dust flying everywhere. The cheers of the Dongmaster, the head of the sect, continued as they exchanged blows. The birds were flying here to watch today's match. Could they already know the outcome? Next, please invite Tanvan to return to the sect, as the sky was getting late, but the competition was still ongoing. Next, please, next, please. As the number of contestants had decreased significantly, the real battle was just beginning. With 2 very prominent faces, Nguyat Lin Dung Jung Tai and Phong Lin Dung Tân, Win Yin stood straight with his sword in hand, extremely serious. The final match between the inner disciples would now begin. Tanvan looked down from above and seemed surprised. Oh, is it about to end? He looked at his close brother standing on the stage, smiling warmly. Not bad, Nguyen Yin. I didn't expect you to make it to the final round. A sharp strike from the opponent swung out, and Nguyen Yin had to use both hands to dodge Dung Tai's sword. They both sprang back, creating an invisible pressure that made people gasp. Trungden of Nguyt Lindung was at the level of Ling Quan. At the 5th level, he silently praised his junior brother more than the danger of that level. At this moment, Nguyen had regained the upper hand by continuously attacking and pressuring his opponent. Although the higher realm would create deadly pressure, Nguyen's swordsmanship was very refined. Fighting against a true disciple was clearly... He had comprehended another layer of sword intent. His stance remained very stable, showing no signs of weakness. I only taught Nguyen the sword technique that could be applied and developed even on the battlefield. He was indeed very talented. If he performed well, he would likely be accepted by the Heavenly Master as a true disciple. Jung Tai swung his hand to deflect the opponent's attack, placing one hand behind his back. One hand pointed the sword forward, suggesting to Tan Junior brother, "That's enough for probing. Now unleash your final move to decide the winner." Nguyen wiped the sweat from his brow and replied, "I have that in mind too." Jung Tai's finger pinched a talisman in his hand, then he ignited it with lightning to use it. The cultivators witnessing the battle gasped in surprise at the soul-collecting talisman, but in such a short time he could burn the spiritual power and consciousness of his body to unleash such a powerful force. Did Dung Se-hun really want to use this blood-burning talisman? Nguyen was not to be outdone, and took out a pill. He quickly swallowed it and the feeling of fatigue vanished, replaced by a powerful surge of spiritual power. This was a violent weapon pill. Unexpectedly, Tansude had another trick, even though it was only a 3rd-grade medicine. But its effectiveness could be said to match that of the soul-collecting talisman. Dung Tai began to wield his sword with great sharpness, executing the Nguyet Lin sword technique. "Be careful, Tansude." Nguyen Yin said nothing, but focused his strength into his sword. Fong Lin's sword gone long. Both streams of power collided and fought fiercely, as if wanting to tear apart space. Tanvan's eyes darkened. The outcome was determined. Those 2 strikes affected the surroundings, so the nearby cultivators could only close their eyes and dodge. Dust filled the arena, and the figure of the one who lost gradually became clear. Nguyen's face was injured. He stabbed his sword into the ground and said to himself, "I have lost." Dung Tai still stood firm. He humbly said to the young disciple, "I only have a bit more spiritual power than you." He had also sustained minor injuries and had to breathe while speaking. "If you and I were at the same level, my loss would be nothing surprising." Nguyen was surprised and looked up. "Really?" In his mind, he suddenly remembered the face of Tan Van Hua Suhuin. "If it weren't for your guidance, I could never have achieved this level of swordsmanship." The final declaration echoed, and the match between the inner disciples had concluded. Suddenly he remembered the face of Tan Van, his senior brother. "If it weren't for his guidance, I would never have been able to achieve this sword path." The final declaration had also sounded. The match among the inner disciples had ended. The winner is Duong Tai from the Wind Chime Hall. The congratulatory sounds below echoing, congratulating senior brother Duong. Junior brother Tan is quite impressive too. Onjian raised his eyebrows and commented that, indeed, they are 2 talented disciples. He turned to speak to Nguyen Tam. One has a solid foundation, the other is exceptionally gifted. Both of them are qualified to become true disciples. Nguyen Tam the fairy gently pointed her finger and let her stream of spiritual energy flow away. This is originally my responsibility. Both of them became excited again and exclaimed that their injuries and spiritual energy had recovered. The match controller then said to Duong Tai, "You are the leader of this competition. According to the rules, you can choose a true disciple you want to challenge. If you can win, you will take their place as the true disciple." He hesitated for a moment and then said, "I choose just as Tan Van planned." His gaze shifted towards him, Lu Van and Hua Tan Van. The other disciples whispered among themselves, "Senior brother Hua, as a true disciple, is at the bottom of the rankings. However, his strength is at the bottom of the list. Tienkyo Thing only has a cultivation level of the 6th layer of the spirit realm. This might be the weakest true disciple of Tan Van Sword Sect. Senior brother Hoa must be the weakest true disciple competing against the top inner disciples. This will be a great show for me." Tan Van then landed on the arena. "Oh, is it time for me to compete already?" Duong Tai still respected him and bowed his head before senior brother Hoa, hoping to receive guidance. He was very pleased and said, "Well said, well said." Nguyen, who was beside him, suddenly sighed and reminded Duong Tai, "Senior brother Duong, please be careful." He felt a bit confused. What does junior brother Tan really mean by this? Why is he offering himself? Is there an ominous premonition? Meanwhile, Tan Van was still smiling very kindly as the birds flew overhead, along with the voice of the match controller. The match began. Duong Tai did not rush to attack, but opened the conversation first. "Senior brother Hua, I have heard of your reputation for a long time." Tan Van felt a bit proud. "Oh, then it is an honor for me." But Duong Tai's eyes and face were not as cheerful as he thought. "To be honest, your actions have disappointed me greatly." He began recounting his journey. "I am just an inner disciple, but my heart is set on the path. Just because I want to become a true disciple, I have lost sleep and meals every day, never daring to slack off." Tan Van sighed. "It seems I can guess what you want to say." Immediately, Duong Tai raised his voice. "Yet you as a true disciple always enjoy a 9-to-5 work schedule, never seriously practicing." The scene of him lying lazily under a tree during training made the inner disciple like him very angry. But during training, he also wasted a lot of time being lazy. Tan Van thought to himself, "You really understand me." He began to channel spiritual energy into his sword and boldly said, "Your cowardly actions are not worthy of our Tan Van Sword Sect. We will defeat you and then become the next true disciple." Tan Van's arm then stretched out and around him talismans were flying in a circle. "Unexpectedly, my 9-to-5 work schedule has made you suffer so much." Duong Tai did not wait any longer and began to rush towards senior brother Hua. "Look at this." The corner of Tan Van's mouth secretly curled into a sly smile. He mumbled to create a shield around himself. When Duong Tai rushed in, the blow hit that protective layer, causing the inner disciple to be startled. After that, he still tried to strike several blows, but they were all ineffective. Duong Tai had to retreat before Tan Van's sturdy defense. The other disciples were left gaping. "What?" Meanwhile, Dong Kan stood up with an angry expression. How outrageous the disciples of Tan Van Sword Sect take the path of swordsmanship as invincible. On this path of swordsmanship, life and death depend on those sword strikes. He pointed at Tan Van and scolded him. "Look at this Hua Tan Van, hiding behind talismans. Does such behavior still qualify you to practice swordsmanship? It truly brings shame to our Tan Van Sword Sect." But another voice intervened to refute that opinion. "What does the meaning of the Pathmaster Dong mean? Is it that Tan Van Sword Sect can only practice swordsmanship and cannot practice any defensive techniques?" Encouragingly on the side, bluntly reproached him. "If everyone were as reckless as you, our Tan Van Sword Sect would have long been destroyed." Dong Kan's face turned red with anger. "What do you mean, Path Master?" On Jian then intervened to stop the hostility between them. "Enough. This match is to prepare for the upcoming TNQ Thing conference. No need for more words." He took action to clear the air for Tan Van. If Tan Van has chosen this way, then he has his reasons. As long as he wins, what is there to complain about? Duong Tai now stood facing him and spoke in his resentful tone. "Senior brother Hoa, you as a true disciple are trembling with anger while fighting against an inner disciple like me, only daring to hide behind talismans. Is that all you can do?" With that anger, he rushed towards him. "Is there any difference between this action and that of a turtle?" Tang Van's hand gently pierced through the shield, accurately catching the blade of Duong Tai's sword, causing the protective layer around him to gradually dissipate. The inner disciple Duong Tai was startled and wanted to retreat but could not. "What are you doing?" He rushed forward with that anger. "How is this action any different from a turtle?" Tang Van's hand gently pierced through the shield, accurately catching the blade of Duong Tai's sword, causing the protective layer around to gradually dissipate. Inner disciple Duong Tai was startled and wanted to retreat, but couldn't. What Tan Van said was a bit serious as he retracted his talisman and said, "If you want to confront me like this, I will still give you a chance. The people below are very anxious. Oh, finally, it's time to act." I'm getting really sleepy here, mainly because I'm trying to smile to bless the unfortunate Dung Su-hun. "I wish you luck." Jung Tai still innocently showed joy at Tan Van's words. "Su-hun, finally, you are making your move." He kept himself calm again and clasped his hands together, apologizing for his previous words, which might have been a bit too much. He hoped that Su-hun wouldn't take it to heart. Tan Van also kindly said to forget about the previous matters. I can understand a not-so-happy smile appearing on his lips, but his words remained very forgiving. It's just a small matter. Of course I won't take it to heart. Dung Tai continued to channel his spiritual energy into his sword, while simultaneously creating countless other large swords. I hope Suhuin will guide me, and Tan Van continued to take out a fire talisman, and held it in his hand. The disciples were surprised and looked on wondering what kind of talisman that was. They had never seen it before. The talisman he created produced countless fireballs floating in the air, with their numbers increasing and growing stronger, causing those watching to be startled. Just one talisman like this was unexpectedly powerful. Releasing a lot of spiritual power, Dung Tai first threw it at the fireballs, but they dissipated like a gust of wind upon contact. Now the mood of the Dung disciple was gradually becoming panicked. There was still more than half left. How could this be? Tan Van pointed to command the fireballs to fly away, gathering together to form a very powerful stream rushing towards Dung Tai. He couldn't evade and had no defensive technique, so he had to shout, "Let's go for it." He spat out a mouthful of blood and transformed his spiritual energy into a blood-red hue, splattering onto the sword, which combined with the new strength to become greatly enhanced. Dung Tai swung a horizontal slash at the column of fire, but the disparity in power was too great. Therefore, he was overwhelmed. The flames struck his body, burning his clothes to ashes. Finally, a huge explosion occurred right in the arena, and Dung Tai nearly became a piece of roasted meat falling down below in front of many witnesses. His face turned dark and confused, his hair frizzed up into a clump, and his body emitted countless white smoke. Those standing there saw everything about him from A to Z. Even the female disciples turned red and shouted loudly. Wen Yin, seeing Dung Tai's embarrassed appearance, could only sigh, having already warned him. He just wouldn't listen to me. At this moment, the inner disciples of the third rank truly understood what fear was like. I originally intended to challenge Hua Suhuin. The smoke gradually dissipated, leaving only Tan Van there. The outcome of the match was determined. Hua Tan Van won, and he smirked with great satisfaction. Oh, it seems a bit too fiery, doesn't it? I hope it doesn't leave a psychological scar on the boy. Tan Van calmly stood waiting for the results to be announced. This time, Hua Tan Van won. Wen Yin had been waiting below for a long time and was also called next, as chosen by Tan Wen Yin. Before going into battle, he hurried to stand in front of Tan Van and shouted, "Hua Su Huin, that last match was great." Tan Van also placed a hand on his shoulder and encouraged him, "Go for it in Wen Yin." Thanks to that encouragement, he gained a fierce demeanor. Stepping onto the arena, Tan Win was invited to choose his opponent. He closed his eyes, thought through a few names, and then exclaimed loudly to point out a direct disciple, "I want to challenge Lam Suhuin." The other party was startled and gasped. Tan Van also looked at the chosen one and thought to himself, "Oh, he chose Lam Su, the direct disciple ranked third from the bottom." He nodded, showing satisfaction. The two faced each other and first bowed. Tan Su de Lam Suhuin. He intended to watch the match a bit, but Tan Van suddenly heard a voice ringing in his head. "Van Tan, come here for a moment." He was surprised that his master called him. Tan Van quickly flew towards the observation stand, slowly descended to the ground, and greeted the elders. However, the expressions of Kovu and Dongkan were stern. Very displeased, his master solemnly asked, "Tan Van, where did you get the talismans you used earlier?" He carefully took the talisman from his sleeve and presented it before the two elders. The disciple once was in a secret realm and received it from a senior. I just comprehended the Bach Wiem Long talisman. He spoke cheerfully and naturally about these talismans, explaining that the power released by this talisman was closely linked to his spiritual energy. In fact, he obtained the talisman from a transaction involving all his spiritual energy, and that purple demon a few days ago. He shouted loudly, "Just these few talismans, how could that be enough? Hurry up and get more of this type of talisman. Once released, the power could rival the attacks of the fourth layer of the Death Realm." Feeling frustrated from being beaten and robbed, Tan Van was satisfied, holding a stack of talismans in his hand. As long as he used these talismans during battle, he could easily win 2 matches, like flipping his hand successfully entering the top 20, without being doubted by the sect about his strength. He could also fulfill the promise with Dong Suton. Kovu looked at the talismans he held and pondered. The ancient inheritance, the other elders also did not doubt it. No wonder we didn't recognize the effectiveness of this talisman. Everyone look at the patterns on the talisman. They are all ancient patterns. Indeed, it is truly marvelous and extraordinary. But Dongkan alone showed a displeased expression and called his name Hua Tanvan. Around him was a fierce hatred directed towards him. Tanvan still maintained a calm attitude and asked, "Dong Dong Chu, is there something wrong?" He gritted his teeth in anger and accused him, "As a disciple of Tanvan Kiem Tong, what you used is merely a formation talisman. It's hard to avoid winning in an unglamorous way." Knowing his grievances, Tanvan explained, "What's wrong with winning in an unglamorous way? The sect competition did not restrict the use of any external objects. So this tactic of the disciple is indeed in accordance with the rules, yet you tilt your head in mockery, as if Master Dong doubts the rules set by the sect leader." Dongkan immediately shouted, relying on this shortcut tactic, "On the contrary, I want to see how far you can go." On Jian's loud interjection, it was enough. "Master Dong, you go ahead with Yuan Xin and rescue Tanvan. If these talismans were passed down from the secret realm, then I won't ask much more. You can temporarily withdraw and try harder in the next match." Tanvan sighed softly in relief and bowed. Thank you, sect leader. I will take my leave now. The sect leader is kind. Next time I will bring you more rewards. At that moment, the match had come to an end. The competition ended. Tan Nguyen lost to Tanvan, which was not surprising, even though Nguyen, the junior brother, had lost. However, the strength he displayed made him go down with a dirty face, comforted by his fellow disciples. It seems that the true disciples are not far off. Elder Trio held a piece of paper and announced, the challenge match for the disciples of the sect has concluded. Next, there will be a draw for the competition between the first true disciple of Group A and the first of Group B. He quickly received his jade tablet. Muttering to himself, he saw the number 23 of Group B. Thinking about the format of this competition, he guessed that it would not be his turn to challenge in the short time ahead. Group A was the fighting group first, so the masters of the sect had already taken the stage. Tanvan lazily lay in midair, waiting for his next match. Huyen Nguyet and Kuk Nhan were about to fight. A special name was called out with emphasis and strength, causing him to awaken. The name Nak Kiem Tam made both boys and girls show eager expressions. Ho ho ho, the top disciple is finally waiting for Master Nak to take the stage. Below, cheers erupted for Nak Kiem Tam. Tanvan sat up to watch the fun, the popularity of Master Nak still high. Next to him, the names of others were also called out. Kuk Nhan. Kuk Nhan, that name suddenly reminded him of the strong silhouette of a girl. Huh. Many people were shouting Kuk Nhan's name. It was said that Kuk Nhan was a great beauty, and many true disciples pursued her. The disciples were all excited like this. They probably wanted to quickly see the match between the two beauties. The slender legs of that girl appeared, her flowing dress and the falling peach blossoms heightened the excitement of the disciples. Here comes Kuk Nhan. The girl with two neatly tied bunches of hair radiated a dazzling floral color. That was Huyen Nguyet Kuk Nhan, ranked 6th in the Tienkyo Fourfold Earth realm. At this moment, someone descended from the sky. Very quickly, Master Nak, the top disciple, had arrived. A calm face appeared in the breeze. She was the top-ranked disciple, Nak Kiem Tam, with a cultivation level of 5 in the Earth realm. Her amber eyes widened as she looked at her opponent. Tanvan also paid more attention to her than to Kuk Nhan. The sword intent of Master Nak became solid, and her cultivation level increased. Lamdong was very surprised. The strength of Kiem Tam had risen again. Dong Kying also rated her highly, but the strength of Kuk Nhan should not be underestimated. Huyen Nguyet's sword technique combined illusion and swordsmanship, making it unpredictable and powerful. Yuan Xin smiled gently and asked Master Onjian, what do you think the outcome of this match will be? With his experience, he soon guessed that these two were among the best, but Kiem Tam's level was higher than Kuk Nhan's by 1 rank. I think within half a stick of incense, the winner will be decided. Then the power from the two girls surged strongly as the match began. Kuk Nhan spoke, Master Nak, it has been a year since our last duel. She replied, Master Kuk, are you still well? Kuk Nhan caressed her thin sword like a thread and confidently boasted to the person in front of her, last time we fought 133 moves and I was defeated after 1 strike. Since then, I have been diligently training. My strength is now different from before. She immediately used the Huyen Nguyet sword technique, splitting into countless clones and leaving high, hoping to see her sister Kiem Tam's stronger sword technique today. With both hands gripping her sword tightly, her eyes widened and shone brightly. Slowly, she drew the shining blade from its sheath to strike. Just as she drew her sword, Kiem Tam unexpectedly jumped off the stage. The match was not yet over. Where do you think you're going? But behind that cold girl were countless sword paths, leaving 3 of Kuk Nhan's swords falling to the ground in fear. All her illusions shattered before her eyes, forcing her to exclaim, Ah, I concede. Kuk Nhan stood in the center of the arena, the fragments from the shattered technique falling around her. Though it was bitter, her hands could not help but tremble. I lost. Kiem Tam placed her hands behind her back and nodded, having conceded the battle which occurred in the blink of an eye, leaving those around her bewildered. What just happened? So Sister Nan has directly admitted defeat. Up above, there are 2 direct disciples chatting about the match earlier. Did you see when Brother Trio used his sword just now? With just a flash of sword light in the blink of an eye, he cut through all the residual images, and the swordsmanship level of Sister Nan has increased another notch. They could even discern some minor moves created by the sword intent while Sister Nan was still present. The sword body of Sister Nan has landed 10 hits, causing the spiritual energy to flow backward, leading to the 3rd-ranked disciple of the Tienkyo list losing grip. The top disciple of the Luvan sect, Jiang Do, calmly analyzed thus the spirit. The sword in Sister Nan's hand fell, and she automatically admitted defeat. Trio Tinlok, the 2nd-ranked disciple of the Tienkyo list, who's the former head of the Thanvan sword sect, crossed his arms and whispered that, at that moment, it was around 12 to 13 hits. The exact number of hits was not clearly visible. Thanvan on this side tilted his head and murmured to himself a few interesting things. Unless a sword cut through all those residual images in the sky, he sighed, but was quite impressed. He then used 23 consecutive strikes to destroy the spiritual energy in Sister Nan's sword. Those steadfast eyes and decisive sword strikes confirmed the uniqueness of the sword intent. No wonder she's the top direct disciple. I just need to leave a mark of sword intent for her to comprehend the great Tao of sword forms. Indeed, it is extraordinary. Tan Van turned to another place to find joy observing how excited the sect leader and the elders were. At this moment, Dongkan could not contain his voice and exclaimed, "I can't be mistaken, right?" Lam Dong was both shocked and laughing. Just now was the great Tao of sword forms. Remembering the slender figure of that girl, they were even more surprised. Absolutely right, her sword intent. How old could she be? The training time is probably not even 25, right? Encouraged by seeing those things, they were extremely hopeful about this talent. The so-called Great Tao of sword forms refers to 3,000 Great Taos within the sword Tao throughout the entire Thungwin, reaching the 9th level of the Zifu realm. There are countless, but among them very few can comprehend the Great Tao and merge it to step into immortality, as rare as phoenix feathers. He turned to say to the sect leader, "Countless cultivators, for a bit of opportunity of the Great Tao, continuously ventured into dangerous forbidden areas just to gain a bit of insight to attain the Tao. The sect leader's talent is hard to find in the entire Thungwin realm. If wholeheartedly nurtured, the Thanvan Sword sect has a successor. The future is very promising." On Kim also smiled with delight. Our Thanvan Sword sect has such a talented disciple. The future will definitely become stronger. After this competition ends, I will seek out the sect to ask how she has cultivated. On this side, Thanvan held the watch in his hand and urged the competition tiredly. "Can we finish the competition today? It's almost time for me to get off work." The previous battle has ended with the injured returning, and they continue to announce the next name. Disciple number 23, please come forward, Liu Vandung's Quan Sonyak. He was speaking very boldly, but his voice suddenly became smaller as he faced off against Liu Vandung's Hua Tanvan. It was that man again. Sonyak gritted his teeth in anger and snorted. He forcefully glided down from above and landed with great strength and power, holding the 14th position on the Tiankyu list, Zifu, realm 2nd level. The disciple of Liu Vandung Quan Sonyak stared intently at everything before him. He raised his massive sword. Tanvan felt a bit uneasy. Unexpectedly, the first confrontation had to face a brother from the same sect. Moreover, he was the 13th ranked disciple on the Tiankyu list. Unlike his fellow disciples, he calmly entered the arena. The match immediately began as Tanvan created a shield first. The battle commenced. Sonyak asked, "Have you set up your talismans yet?" He replied, "Consider it done." Seeing his attitude, Sonyak became annoyed and expressed his feelings. "Since I joined Liu Vandung, I have made a resolution to become the top sect of the Thanvan Sword sect." He had trained the disciples very harshly to help them become strong quickly. Usually he was very strict with his brothers, hoping all the disciples of Liu Vandung could strive to cultivate and put in some effort for Liu Vandung. However, he was also angered by the notion of working and getting off work in Tanvan. Yet you, as a direct disciple of Liu Vandung, not only do not strive, but also lazily hinder the entire Liu Vandung.